shakalaka. We are live, Leigh Underwood. I love having drummers on because you guys all air drum.
You can't not. when you hear-
And it's that classic.
Oh, yeah. It never gets old.
It's so easy to play.
Never gets old.
It's the best. Thank you for doing this so much, Leigh.
Yeah.
For people that have no idea who you are, which I'm going to be surprised, most people that actually watch this will probably know who you are. But for those that don't, give them the bullet points. Give them the headlines.
Let's see here. I have been playing with the premier Minneapolis Foo Fighters tribute band, the Fool Fighters, for the last 8 years. I am also in a country band called the Roger Allen Band. That's had been a moneymaker gig until COVID.
Is that originals?
No, some originals, and we're actually starting to gear more towards doing original stuff. But it's a lot of covers, a lot of the bro country covers that are both terrible and really fun to play at the same time.
Here, pull that a little closer to you. There you go.
Yes.
And what is bro country covers? What does that mean?
You know, like Jason Aldean.
I don't listen to any country, so what is it? I think I know what you're talking about. Come on.
Think about like your typical like jockey high school dude and the sort of songs that he would listen to. Like, I don't know, man. Talking about girls and drinking beer and trucks and
tight jeans.
Yeah, which is
so
fun.
that song.
Cool.
So is bro country that song that's like, and the jeans just fit just right. And turn the radio up. I can take it all night.
Yeah, but more douchey.
Oh, okay.
Think more douchey.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like Luke Bryan.
Yes.
Okay.
Several Luke Bryan songs on the set list for the night. It's fun to play. Like, honestly, I'd never, ever, ever saw myself playing country, but this is the second country band I've been in, and it's actually pretty fun.
Yeah, country drums are pretty cool, aren't they?
It's rock, you know, and it's more taken to a rock approach, which is nice. At least it's not boring train beats literally the entire night, and you know, there's a little more interesting stuff to it, and that band's really fun, and the set seems to veer off in very different places throughout the night. We've played some Michael Jackson, we've played some Alice in Chains, like really random stuff.
In this country
cool.
group.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
Yep.
I mean, it's cool though.
It's fun.
So were you a country fan before this at all?
No. I guess I have an appreciation for the older stuff, but for the most part.
Gotcha.
No.
So what else are you doing?
I play with my girlfriend, actually. She's a solo artist in the area. She does it's very surf rock, pop punky sort of stuff. I feel like she often gets thrown in that singer-songwriter category, but it's that, but a lot cooler.
Sure. No, I know what you mean.
It's really fun.
So does she have shit up that people can go listen to?
Yes.
Plug it. Go ahead. Plug
it. So I know if you just type in her name, Natalie Fiddler, which is spelled Fideler, pronounced like fiddler but spelled different. I think she's pretty much the only one that pops up, but all of her stuff is available on Bandcamp. She released a solo album in 2018 that was literally all her on every single instrument, guitar, bass, drums, keys, vocals, wrote it all. And it's incredible.
Is that how you spell that? Fiddler?
Fiddler. Fideler.
That French. Fideler.
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 There she is.
Okay, let's. Bandcamp, you said was the best one, so just so people can at least get a visual.
Yeah.
There you go. Boom. There it is. Check it out, guys.
So Steak and Eggs is her album, and then I am on the single Inside of You and Power Move.
Sick. Well, there you are.
Yeah.
Aww. And
then I have another band that actually does not have anything released. It's a progressive metal band called Portentum. We've kind of figured out that we've been a band for a year, but with COVID circumstances and holidays just getting crazy with our schedules and stuff, we've really only had about 6-ish months to write stuff. And it was kind of a goal of ours to have an EP done by the end of this year, but I'm not sure if that's going to happen. But that's honestly been a dream project.
Portentum?
Portentum. We literally have nothing. Like, we created a Facebook and we're not touching it until we have something to present. Instead of, hey, here's this cool blank Facebook page with our.
So you said it's progressive metal?
Yeah.
So I know you a little bit.
Yeah.
And you're mildly obsessed with Dream Theater.
Mildly. Honestly, you know me in Portnoy, man.
So is Portentum in any way related to Portnoy?
No. No,
Are
it
you
was
sure?
Yes. Only the first 4 letters match, man.
That's enough for me to draw the connection. I'm just saying. I'm not saying. I'm just saying.
No, that word was based off. Honestly, I can't remember like the actual definition of it now, and I feel stupid. It's basically a Latin word. With this band, the music that we're writing is very emotional and talking about traumatic experiences and overcoming them, and kind of in that sort of vein is where that band name derived from. And
Gotcha.
You know how it is, you like think of a term and look up cool words for it, or like Latin terms for it.
Yeah.
Something cool sounding, but
yeah, like I want to start a punk rock band, call it Schadenfreude. Which is a terrible name, but it's a German word for finding pleasure in other people's suffering. Schadenfreude.
So there's that sort of aspect to it.
That's cool though. That's really fucking cool. And you're pretty excited about that.
I'm really excited about this project. It's literally a dream. Like, it's me, bass, and keys. There's no guitar player. There's we're working into vocals now, but most of it's been instrumental.
How do you have How do you have a progressive metal band without any guitars?
Our bassist and our keys, man, it just fills it out. Like, our bassist has a crazy pedal board, and so he does a lot of not like a lot of looping where that's all it is all the time, but there is some like looping there and then soloing over that. Like, he can play like a guitar. It's crazy. Like, I never thought I would be in a band without a guitar player, and it just works.
That's awesome. That's so fucking cool.
It's so cool. Like, I feel like when I listen back to what we've done on the recordings that I've taken, like, I get that same feeling that I get when I listen to my favorite bands.
Right.
That same, like, oh my God, this is so cool. Like, and I'm getting that with my own music, and that feels really good. I haven't had that in a long time.
That's hard to find.
Yeah.
That's hard to find. A lot of us just kind of just play to play, which is, you do that too.
Well, I mean, that's why I do the cover gigs and stuff. Like, you know, it's a way to play and make money and also better myself as a musician, and that's why I like to take on the different genres.
Yeah, I used to hate cover bands. I used to, like, back in the MySpace days, I'd private message, not even private message, it was just message. I'd message bands, cover bands, and just shit all over them.
You suck.
Fuck you guys. You guys make it so fucking hard for original music. You fucking suck. You're not even good enough to write music so you can play other people's music. Dude, I was toxic. It was bad. I was like 18, 19, just bitter.
I had that same mindset for a long time until I started
why you're laughing
doing
so
it,
hard.
though. Yeah,
that's why you're laughing so hard, because like we've all felt that way.
Oh man, and there's also a lot of, let's admit it, there's a lot of shitty cover bands out there where it's like, ooh, maybe skip that one next time.
Yeah, and it's not even, we're not even mad at the band.
No.
We're mad at the venue, because the venue, you'll be like, listen, you got to let us come play here. And they're like, oh, cool, what's your band name? And you tell them, and then they're like, okay, so what kind of music do you do? And you try to describe it, and they're like, yeah, but what bands do you do? What songs do you do?
Yeah.
And you're like, we're not a cover band, we do originals. And then they have the audacity to go, we only do cover bands here. Yeah. And it's like, but you don't get it. Our band's really good, and we can outdraw them as well. Like, you think you're paying $200 to $500, $800, $2,000, whatever you're paying. You think this is worth it. We could bring 500 people into this bar. Instead, you have 80, and no one's listening to this band. You know what I'm talking about. It's hilarious.
That's why I never dealt with booking or anything like that. I don't want to touch any of that. I hate it.
I'm good at it, but I don't like it.
Tell me when and where to show up, and here I am.
Yeah, my favorite thing to do is just book with other booking agents, because that was easy. But when you start booking with actual venue owners and shit, especially if if you're dealing with a manager or a booker who's new or doesn't know what they're doing, or a venue owner who like is trying to get in and he like wants to, sometimes they want to do too much and they're like, dude, fucking stop. Come on, man. We're doing a local show here. Like,
or it's the unreasonable expectations. Like the last time I really tried to do anything with that was probably like 2009, 2010, and reaching out to contacts I knew I had before. But then like playing, I remember one show within the morning, we were playing at the Fine Line, and there was like a horrendous ice storm that night. We were just cursed. That band was cursed in the wintertime.
I think I remember this show. Here's the crazy thing. I knew members of your band.
Yeah.
Didn't know you were in the band. Never made the connection until
we worked
years.
Together.
Yep, we were working together, which was still years later and years ago now. So, I remember the Fine Line show that you guys were, and I think you were supposed to headline Fine Line.
Yeah, Between Two Skies, Kevin Kildall's band was actually gonna open for us.
Yep, and because I hung out with Jake. And I don't even think Newman was in the band yet.
He's been in the band the whole time.
Okay, so he just wasn't hanging out at Area 52 then. But then you had a bass player. I think his name was Hans.
Yep.
And he was my favorite person. He was my favorite person. He would sit on the floor like Indian style or cross-legged, whatever you want to call it, you know. And but he also had like this like monk vibe to him.
He does.
Yep.
He's a quiet dude. He's a really great guy and one of the best bassists I've ever seen.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, and the way he would sit there and like he looked very eccentric and underwhelming. And then the way he would sit on the floor and play bass, like just hanging out with people. But he would just run circles around everyone else in the room. And then he'd set the bass down and be like, thank you guys.
Yep.
Have a good night.
Oh, I can see it exactly. I remember when we recorded Why Are We Driving to Iowa? I knew he was great, but I feel like this happens to me, especially with bassists, is I don't really realize what's happening until we're recording, and I can hear the full part. And like every song that we had when Hans was recording his bass lines, it was just like, that's what you're doing there? Like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah.
So good. Like, everything he played is so good.
You know who that reminds me of? Is, have you ever heard the isolated bass tracks of Cliff Burton?
No, but I bet that is.
So everyone knows how great he is, right?
Oh, yeah.
Everyone. Like, especially if you ever seen him play live. I can't play it. I got flagged. Me and Johnny got flagged last night, so that's why I'm not going to do it again. I can't play other people's music off of YouTube. I will get flagged for it every single time. I can get away with it if it's your music and you're licensed, because then I can just like dispute it and be like, no, it's the artist who wrote the music on my podcast to promote their music. And then they give it to me. They're cool about it. I ain't getting away with playing isolated Metallica bass lines. But just even if you guys want to, we're going live. We're going to be here for a while. Fucking pause this or pull up another browser, whatever, and just search isolated Cliff Burton bass lines. If you're already familiar with him and you already think he's great, wait until you hear these, because it'll fucking blow your mind. And that's what you're kind of talking about. Like, you can play in a room and a full band with these guys. You can go see them live. You can hang out with them and you're like, that guy's awesome. But then there's something different that happens when you're hearing just them play to your drums, which have probably already been recorded at that point, or you're laying down your drums and he's your scratch track and you're like, fuck, dude, I didn't realize you were doing all that in that part. Do you ever was he so good? Have you ever, like, you're in the studio, he's doing his parts and you go you're like, fuck, man, I didn't really realize you were playing all of that. Hold on, let me switch up my part to better honor what you're doing there, whether you change your kick drum or you're like, let me actually add in like a double snare here or a fill there.
I feel like those sort of things have happened. There's nothing that's sticking out particularly. I find with fills and stuff, though, that often my best fills in the studio are mistakes.
Really?
Yeah. Where I'm like, you know, there's some fills I feel like I play the same way every time, and then there's a lot that I just kind of wing and experiment with a little bit. And sometimes when I think I'm playing the wrong thing, I listen back and I'm like, oh, that was cooler than what I thought I did. So great, let's keep it.
Have you ever written a fill or a part or a break where it was maybe a fuck up and you listened to it back and you were like, that's really cool, and then you can't figure out how you did it?
Yes, definitely. Big time.
That's gotta be the most infuriating part of drumming is you do something and you're like, I have no idea how I did that, because you're just jamming, you're just feeling it.
Yeah. We had Bilderberg had a point when we recorded.
Bilderberg's another band you were in?
Yeah,
just
so
for
that
people
was
that are
actually all of In the Morning except Hans. Hans had decided that he wanted to step down from playing bass, so we got Kenner Segrist in on bass.
I remember Kenner.
Oh yeah, Kenner's
I have the best story
good
about
shit.
Kenner.
But we had another band, Bilderberg, for a while. But I remember when we were recording one of our songs, Kenner and I were like just a touch off of each other on this one part, but it kind of created this cool hesitation, and we ended up just leaving it.
Almost like a polyrhythm.
Kind of, in a way, like it just gave this pause, like a little extra.
That's super cool.
So we kept that.
That's cool. That's an easy one though. You can kind of figure that out, but executing being a little off sync is hard. That's tough. Yeah. But you don't have to relearn something. But that's good. That's cool. I wanted to ask you this. So this is one of my favorite part of the podcast is whether it's a fellow drummer or a fellow guitar player, because I play both instruments. I used to be a singer. Understanding, because I get a lot of these questions, and it's fucking fascinating how each instrument is vastly different. Do you play any other instruments other than drums?
I actually was primarily a guitar player in my youth.
Okay.
And I also played piano for a long time. So I started on piano.
At how old?
5 or 6. I
Holy
was
shit.
really young.
Okay.
I was really young.
Parents force you into it?
Yeah, but
you liked
it. Like, I come from a musical family. My mom taught me how to play drums. My parents were in marching band together in college. My dad was a trumpet player. My brother picked up trumpet.
That's cool as fuck.
Now he teaches brass and woodwind instruments.
Gotcha.
So I kind of had the musical genes. Like, yeah, I enjoyed it, but I don't know. With piano, I got really good really fast, and then kind of stemming off that, I had a neighbor that lived behind me. I was a little neighborhood helper when I was like 8, 9 years old. And I saw this woman out weeding one day and went up and was like, "Can I help you?" And she actually turned out to be a local musician whose like ads I would hear on the radio station. But she was a local artist. But to me, I'm like, I've heard you on the radio. And when I grew up in Reading, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
I moved here when I was in 5th or 6th grade. But I lived in Reading, Pennsylvania.
Gotcha.
Yeah, she was like a local artist. That just happened to have commercials on and stuff. So I thought she was like famous. You know, I'm a little kid. So I'm like, you're so cool.
Of course.
When I figured out who she was like talking about playing guitar. I'm like, man, I've always wanted to learn how to play guitar. And
you already played piano.
I already played piano. So I remember one day she like taught me 2 chords. She taught me this little like country sound ditty going back and forth between D and G. And then I didn't see her for like a month, but I didn't put the guitar down. And I remember at that point I had like taught myself half of Nirvana's Nevermind. Like I didn't put it down, and like having that piano knowledge, I kind of knew where the notes were on a guitar.
Gotcha. Cheater.
Came more natural. And then around that same time, my mom started teaching me drums.
That's super fucking cool.
So I played drums in like school band from 4th grade on.
So you probably don't even remember a moment then where you decided you wanted to do music, because it was always around.
It was always around.
That's fucking cool.
Yeah. So like I was really good at guitar. I was actually a way better guitar player than I was drummer for a long time. I was a good drummer, but I was a good guitar player.
What possessed you to ditch the other instruments and get to drums?
You'll love this answer. I bet you already know what it is.
I think I do.
Mike Portnoy. Like, you already fucking know, man.
I did kind of.
It was, though. It was Portnoy's drumming that seriously, like, flipped that switch for me. Like, I grew up, obviously, idolizing, like, Neil Peart and John Bonham, like you can't deny those guys. Like
Right.
that was a huge thing for me and why I wanted to start playing drums. Like guitar was my love though.
Right.
Like Jimmy Page,
Sure.
that's why I have this tattoo. Like that was my guitar hero. But yeah, with drums, I remember an old bandmate of mine when I was probably 18 or 19 showed me the Live Scenes from New York DVD.
Okay.
And it was The Dance of Eternity.
Gotcha.
And that's like, I literally have that song tattooed on my arm.
And you were already drumming.
I was already drumming. I just,
so you were into it.
That wasn't my focus.
Mm.
Guitar was my focus. So that was where I went from that shift to
Gotcha.
guitar to drums. Like, I don't know, man. I watched The Dance of Eternity and I'm like, I want to do that.
So for you, because I've been asking you questions that I get. And just, it's interesting hearing how you answer these. Here's another one I get. And for me, it's an easy answer, but I have a million of these to do. So I don't need to answer every fucking question with my own version too. I got to remind myself that I fucking talk too much. You know what I mean? It's more about getting to know you guys.
That's why you have a podcast.
So let me ask you this. So, and the answer for me, I also kind of know. I thought when I said, so what was it that made you decide to do drums over? I thought it's one of two answers. It's either Portnoy or she couldn't find a drummer. And so she just started saying, fuck it, I'll drum then. Because that's how most of us end up playing drums is we can't find a competent drummer. And we're like, fuck it, I'll do it.
I just had to comment on a friend's Facebook post the other day. He was talking about the song, what was it? Deftones. Around the Fur. There was a band I was in. I was playing guitar, and the drummer was all right. He wasn't great, but he was all right. And he bought some new drum heads and didn't know how to tune his drums, but I did, so I tuned them for him. And my the other guitar player, started playing a part to a Deftones song. And I knew how to play it, so I started playing along with them, and they
you're better than
fired the drummer the next day.
That's one of the most common
moved
stories.
me back to the drums, and I felt bad because that drummer was the one that got me into that band, and I was like, kind of knew him from the first time I worked at Guitar.
Sorry, bud. Sorry, bud. Should have worked harder.
Dude.
Sorry, buddy. Because that's the problem, I think, with a lot of musicians, athletes, a lot of people. It's like, here's the thing. If you don't work hard enough, somebody with natural talent and less work ethic will take your job.
Yeah.
And if you are very talented, but you don't work hard enough, somebody with less talent and a more work ethic will eventually take your job.
Yeah.
So fucking stay on it. Don't rest on your laurels. These are old cliches we've been taught since we were children.
Right.
Okay, so here's one I also think I know the answer to, but I still want to ask it because it's this fucking stupid question I get all the time. It's not a stupid question. Which one do you like better, right? Which is obviously drums because you decided to go with drums.
I start to miss guitar every once in a while.
But the question is, why do you like drums better? That's really the follow-up question.
I think I like the physical nature of it. It is that primal urge. It's that aggression. It's that good drumming can really make a song, I think, too.
Right.
Like, I think a lot of people...
They're like vocals.
Yeah.
Good drums can make a song. Bad drums can ruin a song.
Yeah.
Same thing with vocals.
And even simple drum parts, there's different ways to play things. And if you don't play it for the song, then it can really shift things. And I think, I don't know, getting more into drums and kind of realizing that. Not that I didn't think that before, that every member had to be strong, but like a good drummer really does make a good band.
Are you a sports fan at all?
I do like hockey and baseball.
Okay.
But I am not gung-ho about following. I used to be.
Drummers are like first basemen. Like, seriously, you don't notice it when they don't fuck up and they make it all look really easy.
Right.
But when you have a really bad first baseman, it is so horrendously obvious. That's what a drummer is.
Right.
Is we don't get any of the glory when we're being humble and staying in the pocket
Right.
and perfect on time. No one realizes it. That's the expectation. That's the minimum. But that's one of the hardest things to do.
Yeah.
It's actually really easy to be flashy and go off and be fucking crazy. But does it sound good
Right.
with that song? Is it in the right spot? Like those are, believe it or not, the hardest thing to do is like exactly what you said. Play to the song, stay in the pocket, fucking put the right swing and groove on it. It's hard to explain, but that's really the best way I can do it is.
I honestly,
but you fuck up, you drop a stick. Whoo! Everybody notices that. You know what I mean?
That's the thing, man. I feel like drum mistakes are more glaringly obvious than other instruments. You can like kind of play off if you played a wrong note, but when you fucking derail a groove or drop a stick, like you said, there's that ooh moment of this doesn't sound good.
You played a ton of live shows. Did you ever, before you ever played your first live show, and this is not one I get asked all the time, this is something I'm curious about that I should be asking more drummers. Before you ever played a show, were you aware that you were going to drop sticks or break sticks and practice breaking sticks or dropping sticks and learning how to play through it? Or did you just have to learn that lesson, I guess, while you were doing it live?
That's a good question. I feel like that's something you just learn to roll with, I guess.
Yeah, I was able to cheat.
I don't know. You like, there's always that fear or that those times when things happen on stage and you just kind of have to learn to adapt. And I feel like I've gotten pretty good at filling it in for a second and grabbing and going, but I think we've all had some horrible on-stage disasters.
Oh yeah. The only reason I ask it is because we've been talking about like if you break a stick, everyone notices, unless you know how to handle it.
Yeah,
like that's the thing is like if you're a true pro, and that's where you can see a pro drummer is they break a stick, and even if you can tell they missed a beat, they fucked something up, they get back on point so fucking fast that it doesn't even matter, and within another split second, as fast as it happened, you've forgotten about it,
right?
Because it's basically flawless. They'll still keep the band on, they'll still keep the main beat, they'll maybe drop a snare because they lost their stick, so
yeah,
you'll lose. But the really good ones, and what I always used to tell my drummers before I started picking up drums, is I'd watch other drummers fuck this up live, and I'd go, dude, when you fuck that up, just finish the bar fucked up. Just keep the rhythm, but don't try to bring that snare back in because it sounds like you fucked up now. Just act like it's one bar where you're being super progressive,
It's like a jazz musician.
Yeah,
that joke
exactly.
This
just
is
go
progressive.
with it. Exactly. You never fuck up in jazz. You're progressive. We obviously have the same friends.
I am gonna start using that one. This is the progressive section.
I just decided to like really flex my progressive music muscles for one bar. Live only. On record, I play it straight.
I like to do that.
It's all because you dropped a stick.
I like to do that when we're warming up, especially with Natalie. I like to mess with her sometimes, and I'll just start playing some of her songs like with blast beats or some ridiculous nonsense, and it's fun to do that sort of stuff.
I was as a metal vocalist before I gave it up. So my biggest flaw as a metal vocalist was singing heavy. So I had a great scream, and I could sing like acoustic shit pretty well.
What is it like
fucking like when you're singing but aggressive,
right? Like
the James Hetfield. I don't know if that's even a good example, but that singing to sound cool, it's hard. Yeah. Like it's really easy to sound cheesy, especially with this voice. And fuck, what was I gonna say? I forgot what my point was. What were we talking about? We were talking about improv and off the other shit. And then there was something that reminded me of being a vocalist.
Bad heavy.
Oh no, it was sound checking. So I'm in a metal band. Ooh, you know what I mean? Like, I did a little bit of singing, but not really.
Right.
I would warm up with Amy Winehouse. And Elton John.
How does that work?
So I'd literally just like, they'd be like, go to do my vocal check, and I'd walk up and be like, trying to make me go to rehab. But I could mimic her voice. Like I haven't sang for years, so now don't even ask me to. But it was that one, and then I'd do The Circle of Life by Elton John. It's the circle of life. And I could hit my notes. Yeah.
Lion Cub at the same time.
It was amazing. And there was Can You Feel the Love Tonight too.
Oh,
Can you feel? And it was just I did it because we were in a metal band. So I think it's hilarious that you kind of go the other way when you're doing the coffee shop style. I mean, you said it's not really singer-songwriter, but it's not metal. There's no place for blast beats, but you still do them in sound check.
None at all.
I do. I love that shit. My favorite thing I ever saw, though, was a dude we worked with at Guitar Center for a while. And I went and seen one of his shows randomly. I can't remember his name. You probably would know who I'm talking about if I remembered his name. But he learned how to play. It was almost like, do you know? Have you seen the YouTube dudes Happy Metal, where they play all the metal songs in full major keys?
Yep.
It was basically that before they existed, and that's how he warmed up. So he would play like Enter Sandman in major.
Oh, no.
And it was hilarious. It was so fucking cool because it was the right song and everything was right. But he switched all the minor notes to major notes, and it was fucking hilarious. And I seen him do that at a show one time when he was warming up or sound checking or whatever. And I was like, that's fucking creative. Like, man, I remember if I'm ever a guitar player live, I'm going to do that. Well, now I can't because there's fucking...
It sounds cool, but it sounds so weird. At the same
weird.
time, I hate hearing songs in the opposite keys.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Well, especially like bands like Metallica where they did a lot of major key stuff, but they'd slip in minor notes in the progression.
Yeah.
And... you know, for a lot of laymen, it sounds like it's all like, oh, it's so weird. Like they're not supposed to do that. And it's like, actually all those notes are in this scale, which is like a fucking Middle Eastern scale. Like the whole Master of Puppets thing, like all of that. My buddy Foley does these guitar videos, and he broke one down about like how this scale works in all these different spots. And then all of a sudden he starts playing the middle of Master of Puppets in the middle of this other thing. And it all clicked for me. I was like, oh, now I get it. Now I understand exactly what you meant. Like, they fucking wrote the entire song around this obscure scale. And
that's kind of cool, though.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, I fucking never would have known that unless somebody would have told me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And it's super nerdy, but also cool.
Yeah. So when you take all those minor notes out and replace them with the closest major note, it still sounds like it, but it doesn't sound
It's got a very different vibe.
Yeah. If you guys are curious what I'm talking about, Happy Metal, just search it. I think they're on Facebook and YouTube. Just Happy Metal. It's some of the funniest, coolest, most original shit I've seen in a long time, and that shit blew up. Those guys are doing very well off that channel. So good for them. Shout out to those boys. That's Ben and Andy. Like, I don't know them personally, but I've been talking to them for a long time. I'm trying to get them on the podcast, but they're too busy. They're too big for me.
Too big for
They already blew up too big. I could have probably got them on 2 years ago, but now they're just a little bit too much. They're a little bit too much.
Too
for
cool.
Me. So what else you got going on?
Oh man,
what have you been up to? Any interesting stories since we all left
I guess
GC?
Since I left,
because that's where we met. In case people are curious, we met not through the music scene, ironically, even though
I mean, I guess kinda. But
it was through Guitar Center.
It was through Guitar Center. Would you count that as a music scene?
By default.
By default.
Because half the scene worked at Guitar Center.
Yeah, that's true.
But no, it doesn't strictly count as the scene.
I don't know, man.
Not even the industry.
Had moved to Ellis Drum Shop after...
that's the one in St. Paul, right?
Yeah. I worked there for about 2 years until he closed. So I left Guitar Center in 2013, worked at Ellis until 2015, and now I've been at Clash ever since then.
But your primary gig is, I mean, in a non-COVID world, is the cover shit, the drumming, and then you're doing lessons.
Yeah,
How long have you been doing lessons now?
Man. So I started teaching at She-Rock 8 years ago, and that was like
for people that don't know, explain what She-Rock
so it's a nonprofit organization for girls and trans youth, basically to get them involved in music, and we do a camp once a year that is guitar, bass, drums, keyboards, vocals, all age groups. It's like 8 to 16-year-olds, and then we do a teen week that's I think like 14 to 18 or something like that. But basically they have an instrument class, and then they get put into a band kind of based off age and skill level and personalities and stuff like that.
So when your parents started teaching you all the music stuff and you started getting in it, did you learn it formally and learn the theory behind everything?
I did.
And does that apply to the lessons that you do as well, or do you just do more like just practical drumming
Kind
lessons?
of more practical stuff. Honestly, like when I started drumming more, I stopped reading sheet music. I've kind of always been an ear player.
Me too. It's exactly the same thing. I knew how to do it, and I've forgotten how to do it because in my world, it is basically useless.
Yeah,
like unless you're doing it every day, right? Like it's so easy to forget because it's so hard to remember. And like Jen Dean Forberg is the exception to the rule because she's in a situation where that's part of her process to learn drums. She transposes everything, she charts it all out. And then also she's playing with a big band, like a literal jazz band where it's important to do that. And I mean, if you're a session guitar player, right, or a session drummer, you might need to do that because you might need to be ready on the fly with zero rehearsal.
I feel like that happened more back in the day.
And I think there might, and I agree. And that's what I'm kind of saying. There might still be a small market for that. But in our world, the way we do things, I get time to listen to shit.
Yeah.
And in the cover world, which I really don't do, I've flirted with it multiple times, but I don't want to pretend I'm a cover musician. But most of the times, I already know the songs in my head. And I'm a fairly decent drummer, so all I got to do is listen to it on the way there and go, oh, I forgot about that part. And then like, oh, shit, what are they doing there real quick? Pop, pop, pop. Okay, got it. Oh, he's coming in on the and of 3. Got it. Okay, here. Boom. Okay. And then you walk into the addition, it's fine because all your physical skills are already there, right?
It's big. It's super helpful. If you already know the song, I mean, that's what makes it easy is most of the cover gigs I've done. It's like I'm familiar enough with the song where I know the like meat and potatoes of it, I suppose. It's working out the fine details and stops and starts. That's always the challenge. And I found that
like
especially
a tricky fill or something.
When songs sound so similar. This is a thing that throws me off, like with country music, like the country band that I'm in. The challenge with those songs, they're not hard. They're just not hard at all, but they all sound exactly the same. So sometimes in my head, I'm like, oh my God, is this the song that has this fill or this fill right here?
Yep.
There's these weird little interminglings of, I think it's this song. Oh, no, if it's not this one. Like
I've experienced that in a non-cover act.
Yeah.
So I was playing in this one band. Well, I wasn't playing in the band. I took a jobber gig, right? And I don't want to talk about too many details because I don't want to talk shit or seem like I'm talking shit because I'm really not. But it was the exact same thing. It was like 2 of the songs had the exact same drum beat, like the identical drum beat. Okay, so that was one that fucked me up. They ended differently, and most of the song was different. But the how the song started, like on drums, and the verses were identical on the drums.
Yikes.
Number 2, that was 1 and 2, and then there was like songs number 5, 6, and 7 or something on the set list where it was almost exactly what you said. The songs sounded almost the same. And it was like the hardest part of being a jobber for me is boring, easy music.
Yeah.
If it's dynamic and it's all over the place, it's easier to remember. The more creative and insane it is, the easier it is to remember. Therefore, the easier it is for me to learn on a short term.
Yeah. It can get soul sucking really quick with certain songs, that's for sure. There's definitely been a handful of covers where I'm like, I do not want to play this ever again. I never want to hear this song ever.
That's why it's got to help, right? To play music that you like. So wouldn't it logically be easier to be in a tribute band than a regular cover band? Because usually you love that band.
I have to say the Foo Fighters has never gotten boring. There's a handful of songs, I guess now, like I think it's a great song, but if we never played Learn to Fly ever again, I wouldn't be upset about it. It's like not that I think it's a bad song, it's just
I know what you mean though.
Yeah, for me it's probably the most boring one of the night.
Sure. Especially from a drumming perspective. There's just nothing in that song that's really, because I warm up to a lot of Foo Fighters. Like I have several different warm up sets that are like 45 minutes long of just random covers that I like, bands I like, drummers I respect, like, and I shuffle them up and shit. And in every single one of those sets, there's at least one or two Fighter songs.
Yeah,
because Dave Grohl's drums, like, and I know the other dude plays them, but come on, it's like. It's still Dave Grohl. Like, Dave Grohl ain't letting no shitty drums get through his band.
No.
You know?
Taylor plays very similar to Dave. I think
right.
that's why they...
Very similar.
You know, he had to find somebody like that, or that band would have not worked out as well as it did.
Right.
But that stuff just never gets old.
What would you say is your favorite Foo Fighter song to play?
Run has been my favorite that we do.
Recently, or
yeah.
overall?
Honestly, I have to say overall. That one gets me really fired up. I think it's really well written. I like that kind of just nasty guitar part during the verses. I think that's so fucking cool. It starts out really pretty and then it's so good. I just think it's a really well written song. I know it's newer stuff too, but man,
I can't remember the name of the fucking song.
I wish we would do this one, Low. Do you remember that one at all? It was on a soundtrack for a movie, I want to say.
I can pull it up and we can listen to it. I just can't share it on the podcast because it's going to drive me fucking nuts, guys. Jesus Christ.
That stuff is always challenging.
Because I can't remember the song Low, and I can't remember the name of the song that I do have going in my head right now. This should work. Hopefully it doesn't crash anything. Should be fine. What's the hardest Foo Fighters song to play? Like if somebody wants to improve their chops using that band?
I mean, you can't deny it. Everlong.
Everlong.
That song still makes my forearms burn. It's hard. It's just hard. Keeping the stamina through that whole thing has been a challenge. If I'm like not consistently practicing that, it falls apart really fast. It's been hard with shows being so spread out and obviously now not gigging.
Well, you just got into a house though, right?
Yes,
so you're probably practicing a lot more now.
I am, and that's been a huge thing. I think
nobody's called the cops on you yet?
No, one of our neighbors is actually me and Natalie's bandmate and
nice.
A close friend of ours.
That works.
And then the neighbors on the other side have been really cool. I'm really respectful about hours. I don't think I've played past 9 yet.
Right. We talked about that online because that's still a thing. Even in a house, whether you own it or not, even in a house, you can be as loud as you want during the day until 10 p.m.
Yeah.
And at 10:01, I've had cops knock on my door, meaning the fucking thing had been somebody called way before 10 o'clock. And they were like, we can't do anything till 10 o'clock.
Right.
And all of a sudden, fucking 10:01 and boom, 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 boom. And I'm not joking either. There's been times where, like, we cut it off at 9:59 and we come upstairs from the basement, back in the day, because we don't really jam here anymore. But we'd come back up and we'd see cops walking away from the house like they were ready. And then we stopped at 9:59 and they were like, okay, we can't do anything. And they'd have to leave.
Thing, though. Like, it's, I get being respectful, but you're going to call the police because someone's playing drums.
That's the one. That's my favorite. Pretender.
Oh yeah,
that's my favorite one to play, dude. That the way the drums come into that song, just literally just beating the shit out of the snare drum. Cap, 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 cap.
Broken
cap, cap.
many a stick.
I think it's 8 consecutive snare hits before. And then when he comes in, it's just the kick drum to accent the extras.
It builds.
Yep. And then it's not until the end of the entire round when he finally and he comes in with the full version of the beat. But it's just so fucking Like, no one does that. No one just starts man, we always argue about this as musicians. Like, fuck, how do I start this song? Like, man, maybe you should start the song. Like, no, I think the guitar should start the song. And blah, 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 blah. They wrote this cool and it sounds just beautiful. And
we hadn't done this one in a while.
It's so obnoxious. I wish we could play it for people without getting flagged. I am going to play this, though, because I do love this song.
We hadn't done it in a while, but Stacked Actors was another one of my favorites to play.
So they can't hear this, but we'll have this in the background.
It is good.
Yeah, and he just comes in beating the shit out of this snare drum. Quack, quack, quack. Does he do it? Have you seen him live? Does he hit it with two hands?
I haven't.
Because I just beat the shit out of it with my left.
I do both.
Do you?
Yeah.
Do you go for the flam or do you just go for the loudest single hit?
I go back and forth with it. It's funny. Like sometimes I'm like, start doing the flam and I'm like, I don't think I like this. Like,
it's way more than 8. It's way more than 8. I love it. For people that don't know what a flam is, real quick to the non-drummers, explain to them what a flam is, because it sounds like we're making up words.
Yes.
It sounds like we're talking about like a Ren and Stimpy fucking...
Oh my god, I love Ren and Stimpy. It's basically when one stick is hitting right before the other, but they're like... God, flames are hard to explain because it's two separate notes, but not.
I think that's perfect. Yeah. It's like an intentional
almost hesitation.
Yeah, so it's almost like 2. So instead of 2 things hitting perfectly on time like that, you do it slightly out, so it's... And when you do that, it just sounds a little different.
It's so hard to not just...
to just start air drumming this song. Okay. Do you know the local band Emergent?
I've heard of them. I don't think
They're pretty successful for a local band. Like, they went way past the local scene, right? But they're still our boys. Jamal, the bass player, was on the podcast. So they're in this band, and all of a sudden, I'm going to church. Literally, I used to go to church every Sunday. This is recent. I stopped going for political reasons. Not U.S. politics, religious politics.
Yep.
Because I started seeing him sneak some shit in there that I know ain't in the fucking Bible. Like, I was like, busted! See ya!
Are we really surprised?
And Kate and I looked at my wife, who's an atheist, but was just going because she, like, doesn't hate it. She just doesn't believe it, right? But she was going to support me and blah, blah, blah. Or be with me, whatever. And I looked at her and I was like... We're not coming back here. And she's like, why? I was like, because that shit's not in the Bible.
Right.
They just made that up.
Oh,
and she's like, okay. And we left that day. We waited till the end. We were respectful. We waited till the end. We left quietly. We never fucking went back. And I've never gone back to church since. It's just impossible to find a church that's not trying to fill you full of bullshit.
I am not a religious person. I'm really glad that I grew up in a household that did allow me to choose that sort of stuff. Like, I think my parents made us go to church on Easter and Christmas Eve when I was a kid. I don't remember when that stopped. And then I think when I was in like 7th grade, I had a friend that went to kind of a progressive church, and I tried to go, I don't know, just to experiment and see what I thought about it. And I got really weirded out by the hand raising.
Yeah. Yeah, that shit's creepy.
It didn't make me feel very good. And I was like, I don't know about this.
No, that's just creepy as fuck. No, it's creepy as fuck. There's so many things about the church shit that creeps me out. Like, and so I was like, well, I won't do all that weird shit, but I'll at least be part of the like actual like listening to the sermon, because there's some really good life wisdom in the Bible, right? And like, there's just only so much they can teach you because it's just another asshole. It's just another dude up there. Like, it's not God. It's not Jesus. It's not an actual prophet or a saint or a holy person. It's a fucking dude who lives down the block and drives a Toyota Camry. You know what I mean? Like, He doesn't actually know shit. And some of these guys, like, who I will listen to, though, are the like ex-drug addicts, the guys who like fucking found God in prison because they murdered somebody and like they dedicated their life to God because they've actually been in the world. But these fucking dudes who clearly grew up in like Edina and went to school at a seminary school and got a degree and have like, you know, they waited till they were married to have sex. Like, it's really fucking hard for me to take you seriously and for you to give me life advice when you grew up with all of that protection and privilege and shelter.
I agree with that. And I feel like it's so much up for interpretation.
Yeah,
also,
a lot of it
and
is.
some of that interpretation gets spun in a way that is dangerous to me personally. You know, like it's a hard thing to talk about for a lot of people. That I don't know. I'm just glad that I had that choice when I was younger because I feel like I had a lot of friends that got forced into that stuff. And
sure.
Not that it necessarily negatively it kind of does negatively impact their lives later on and realizing like that manipulation side of things. And
right. Yeah, especially if they were brought up Catholic because
yes.
they use guilt as
That's
a manipulation tool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see, I wasn't raised Catholic, and like my version of Christianity, if you want to call it that, I have a hard time with that word because it's very much something else than what it started as. But my version of Christianity, if we're getting strict about definitions, Catholics are Satanists. Like, because they worship and pray to people that aren't gods, right? Like they break commandment number 1 daily. Like, they pray to all these saints, they pray to Mother Mary, you know, and they have all these like logical explanations for it, right? And I don't actually think that like Catholics are worshiping Satan on purpose directly, but if you like get into certain versions of Christianity, like technically, strictly, anybody who's not worshiping the right God through Jesus is a Satan worshiper. And I'm like, okay, whether that's true or not, I am not willing to like condemn everyone. But my point is, where I'm going with this is it does seem to be religions like that people actually rebel against and like look at as evil. Like, I know a lot of people who are raised Catholic that they're like, fuck religion, fuck God,
Agreed.
fuck the Catholic Church.
That's the biggest one that I hear is Catholicism.
Yeah.
And being forced, like legit forced into that lifestyle and later realizing that
yep,
that's fucked up.
For real. And there's other religions that do too. Like, I'm Jewish, like by blood and name and shit. But I wasn't raised Jewish, and one of the reasons I wasn't raised Jewish is because apparently way back somewhere along the way we converted to Christianity for similar things, because Judaism is extremely oppressive in its orthodox version,
right?
And I mean, we're talking like the same level of like extreme conservative Islam, you know, where like, bitch, you get beheaded, you leave the house without me. Right. You know what I mean? Like that kind of shit. Like, it's scary.
It's scary, and it's crazy how prominent it is at the same time.
Well, and I feel very similar to the way you do, because I feel lucky I was also raised in an atmosphere where not only was I allowed to choose, because my grandparents are extremely religious. My grandfather was a pastor, like the whole 9 yards, right? My mom technically believes in God, but she didn't go to church every Sunday. She didn't bring me, right? I just naturally believed in it, but I was always introduced to every version of it where like the worst it is cheesy as fuck and a little bit creepy, with like the hand raising and like the singing and like the holding hands and shit. I'm like, this shit feels like a cult.
Yeah,
fuck all that.
That's
like,
what I'm saying, man.
for real.
That's what it feels like to me.
But like, I got lucky in that regard.
Right.
Like, I was never molested. I was never guilted. I was never told if I'm fucking gay, I'm going to hell. Like, I was never told any of that shit. You know, like the people that taught me my religious philosophies and beliefs, it was all about like compassion, love, understanding, and forgiveness.
And that's what it should be. And
right. And I think if more people were raised with people like that, less people would be anti-religious.
I think that that ties so
We just
much.
have Foo Fighters just playing in the background now. Sorry, I didn't mean to
And
interrupt
it's
you.
like
I
a
just
soft-
realized it's still going.
Just like a soft acoustic version of Everlong
and it's like as you're
we're
like,
having a deep
I
conversation.
know exactly. That's what I was gonna say because you're like, I don't know. I think it's one of those things that all of a sudden he's just like, so long, I'm waiting for you. You guys can't hear it. I'm sorry because I'm not willing to get flagged every episode. 1 in 10 episodes tops. I got a 10% rule. Sorry, go on.
I don't know. I think a lot of that ties in with like politics and stuff. Is I think that these are maybe good ideals for people, but it's also creates all this tension and turmoil at the same time, and it's weird to me that we all don't want the same thing for each other, and as human beings, it's weird to me.
It's very strange because. And it's interesting that you bring up the politics thing because I think I can not only agree with that, but I think I can cite a reference for it. So I got sent away to a boarding school because I was a troubled youth. And when I was at boarding school, it was a Christian boarding school. And if I was going to turn against God and like look at the whole religion, it would have been because of this place, right? Because some bad shit happened. It was a dark, dark place. And I definitely think I carried a couple demons out of that place. Like that haunted me for a long time. If you believe in that kind of shit, like if it's true, like I had a couple and they came from that place and it took me a long time to shed that shit. Like I really did kind of feel this dark aura around me for years and it definitely came from that place. But anyways, when I left, I was thinking about getting tattoos. And not just tattoos, but a lot of tattoos. Like what you have right now would be like nothing. I was talking a full sleeve in my head, like into a shoulder piece, into a chest piece. The whole fucking kit and caboodle. I had the whole thing designed and figured out. And I was like, fuck, man. One of my conservative relatives was like, it says in the religion, in the Bible, you shouldn't mark your body. And then there's another part in the Bible where it's like, oh, but everything you do in your life should be to glorify God. So I'm like, okay, so if I mark my body, but I'm marking my body and they're all like religious tattoos and like they're meaningful to me. And I'm like, none of them are, not only are they not like anti-religious, but they're like glorifying my version of what I believe in for God. Right. Wouldn't that be acceptable? No one could give me a straight answer. So I'm like, all right, I can't believe I'm going to do this. I'm going to call the fucking pastor and his wife from the old boarding school because they're basically scholars at this point. They've been doing this for so long, The entire thing is built around the Bible, this whole school. And so I call her and I ask her this. And first of all, I go, I need to know where it's actually written. I need to actually read this for myself. She goes, I got to call you back. 3 hours later, she calls me back. She's like, here's the verse. And she's like, if you need more references, there's a couple other things. Here's they are. And I look them up while I'm on the phone. I read them. And I'm like, okay, but what if my tattoos are to glorify God because of this verse, and this verse? And she goes, now you're getting into politics and I'm not comfortable giving you advice on that. That's something you have to decide. And I was like, what do you mean? And she goes, okay, so this is where our ideas of conservatism and liberalism come into play. It literally started from religion and how they interpreted certain things like this. So liberals were more open to interpretation. Conservatives were like, nope, buy the book. That's what it says. Don't fucking do it. Because they were scared they were going to go to hell. So you're 100% correct in the way you like softly put that out there. No, I think you're 100% correct. And there's the reference for it.
Yeah.
It is. And then you look at anything all the way up, get off religion for a minute and look at our political situation in United States politics. Whether you're for or against it, gun control, right? Conservatives, it says you have the right to bear arms. We're not willing to negotiate. People on the liberal side are like, well, hey, they were talking about this, and this, not this, and this. It's the same logic, but they're not all agreeing about it's the interpretation of old information.
It's so
you see what I'm saying?
Two-sided. That's the problem with it. There's so many fucking gray areas. There's so many gray areas, and to neglect those gray areas is, I think, what creates danger.
I agree. And then when we try to pass laws that, okay, like the table here, let's look at the whole table. This is right, this is wrong, and there's a lot of gray area in between, but they write the law right down the middle as a black and white issue, And so there's all this nuance before you get to truly wrong or truly right.
Yeah.
But they're like, nope, too bad.
Yeah.
So again, whether it's even the interpretation, it's when they try to put in legislation to make something complex simple in its enforcement or execution. You
Right.
know? And we see that shit with fucking everything. The biggest problem I have with the Conservative Party right now is they've completely forgotten the founding principle,
Yeah.
which original conservatism was like, the government has no right to tell me what I can and cannot do with myself, my body, or my property. Now the conservatives are doing exactly that.
Yeah.
You can't do that. That should be illegal. And I'm like, yeah, but why? And they go, because it's disgusting. And I'm
Yeah.
like, that's not a good enough reason.
No.
You know, if I literally want to remove both bottom ribs and eat my own asshole for sexual pleasure, I have that fucking right.
I don't disagree.
Sorry, Grandma.
I don't disagree with that, though, man.
And
I think
that's why I'm voting for Joe Jorgensen.
I don't know. People should be able to do what they want as long as they're not harming anybody. It's so simple to just leave each other the hell alone.
It's so easy.
So simple.
And no matter how big our differences are on any one issue, it doesn't fucking matter because there's so many other things where we're so similar.
Mm-hmm.
There's way more things everyone is similar on than we are. It doesn't matter. You could even list a dozen things where you're like, I don't know if I could be Jared's friend because he feels this way about these 12 things. And I could go, okay, but we agree 100% on these 500 things.
Right.
How much weight are those 13 things? Now,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong. If I think it's okay that you run around and punch infants in the face, then maybe we shouldn't be friends because that's super fucked up.
I don't know. That's coming into play right now with fucking gay rights, dude. Like, it's scary to me to see that even appearing in the news again.
It's weird.
It's
weird. I thought we already had this figured out.
And it's so stupid. We have so many more important fucking things going on right now, and you're worried about whether I like women or not. Like, it's pathetic.
I just don't understand why they're worried about it. That's what doesn't make sense to me.
I don't get it. I'll never get it.
Like, seriously, to me, it doesn't make any sense. It's like, okay, you think being gay is wrong. Okay, don't be gay.
It's really that simple.
Profound,
wow,
mind-blowing concept. Like, it's not like we're talking about heroin's bad. People shouldn't be allowed to do it because you could do it once and die or be addicted for life.
Yeah.
That's not how being gay works, guys. It's not like AIDS or cancer or coronavirus where it can spread or like manifest itself out of nowhere. Like, that's not how these things work.
No.
You know, like, gay doesn't spread.
I think it's spread in that people started to get more comfortable coming out over the years.
Well, and here's my whole.
That's not like a, oh my God.
Here's my whole take on that. Like,
Somebody
being gay
talk
is
to me that's
nothing
gay.
new. Being gay is nothing new. We've gone through extreme waves of being very openly gay and bisexual and experimental
70s.
to being very. Fuck, let's go all the way back to the Greeks and the Romans.
Yeah.
You know, there was times where being gay was like no problem. It was open. It wasn't even a thing. There wasn't even a reason to think it was taboo, to being ultra conservative, to being very liberal, to being. It's just another cycle. That's what's been fucking me up, Lee. Is any issue we bring up that we're going through right now, I guarantee you, if you know enough about history in just America, let alone the rest of the world, you could find a spot where we already dealt with this once on probably almost this exact issue. And in many regards, we already kind of figured it out. So how are these problems coming back up every 50 to 70 years? It's like, my mind is blown by it. And as a straight, cisgendered white male, I have zero right to have any opinion on any of it. Which is kind of fair. Because
sucks, dude. It just sucks. It sucks that people suck so bad that I just can't be happy.
And I think it's the internet, too. Because face-to-face, most people aren't hateful. Most people are kind of pleasant face-to-face.
I don't really see what's wrong with liking women. I'm sure you can agree.
I love women.
They're great.
I had a hard time just picking one. People were shocked when they found out I was getting married. They were like, no way. I'm sure you were a little surprised. You were like, that guy's getting married?
A little bit.
It's all right. It's all right. My wife was a little surprised. She's like, wait a minute. You want to marry me? Okay. She wasn't against it. She was for it. Oh, that's funny. No, it doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand why anybody gives a fuck who you sleep with. I think some of the shit, though, is like, because we kind of talked about this before the podcast. I legitimately don't care. I really don't even think it's any of my business. The only reason it should be my business is so I don't step on my own toes and say or do something stupid that's going to make you uncomfortable.
Right.
Right. So we like go out and fucking party at the bar and shit. And I see you like vibing with some dude. Right. Like, but you're just like broing down. Right. But I don't know you're a gay woman. So I like walk over to that dude and I'm like, hey man,
yeah,
my friend seems really into you. You know what I mean? Like, oh, my friend seems super into you. You should go fucking hit her up for her number. And then I put you in an awkward spot because I'm an ignorant idiot. You see what I'm saying? Like, so in that context, it might be good to know. But really, in almost any practical scenario, I don't care. I don't want to know. It's really none of my business.
Right.
But there's so many people that I think feel oppressed over it. They're very vocal about it. And I think a lot of people are just sick of hearing about everything. Like, they don't want to hear about your political views, about your fucking feminism or being straight or being gay. Like, the biggest one, and Rogan made the best point, is the new group is the men's rights activists. It's like, we got one spot where we're getting fucked, dude. And it's like in divorce court, child support court. Like, dudes do really get fucked over in those scenarios.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all. That's it. We got all the other rights. Like, he's got a whole bit about it. It's great. But again, it's like, dude, no one wants to hear about this 24/7 from every single group where where your identity is now like suddenly built on what type of struggle you have. And it's like, I think that's where a lot of people's ignorance is manifesting itself into actual hate because they're burnt. Yeah. They're burnt. They're hearing about every different person of every different group of every different color or sexuality or whatever. And they're just... And I'm not even saying I'm one of them. I'm just trying to understand how. And that's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it doesn't fucking make any fucking sense. You know? I mean, it's just fucking... It's exhausting.
It is exhausting.
You can't even get away with this shit watching sports anymore.
No.
Now you watch sports, you got to sit through fucking 20 minutes of them talking about something. Whether it's fucking Tim Tebow's abortion 10 years ago or fucking... or his abortion protest, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's just... And it seems like month by month, day by day, it's just happening more and more and more.
I agree with that.
Well, we can get off the politics shit. We can fucking get back to talking fun music stuff. What the fuck are you guys doing during COVID in all your... Are you guys doing the live stream shit? Are you guys thinking about doing that?
Natalie herself has had some live stream gigs. We actually did a radio station thing up in St. Cloud a couple weeks ago.
Oh, up at the college radio station up there?
And that was really fun. And it was nice to play like full band and actually a pretty nice sounding room, and that was recorded and put out. But other than that, there's just been nothing.
Nothing worth doing?
No.
I'm becoming obsessed with this idea, by the way.
I miss the stage a lot. A lot. It sucks. It's been financially draining. It's hard to not feel like there's much to look forward to, honestly. Not that there's not cool things going on in my personal life or anything.
What do you miss the most about playing live?
Just being on stage. I don't really
know. So people ask me about this. They're like, so I mean, it obviously looks and seems cool, but like, what is it specifically that gets you off? That sounded weird, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean.
Women.
All of them, just any type.
I don't know. It's all the little things about it. I had put up a post on Facebook quite a while ago. Like, it's...
Here, I'm going to pull this a little bit closer to
you. Oh, yeah. To me?
There you go. Yeah. Oh, that's much better.
just feeling like stage monitors, that interaction between bandmates, the nights where you have a really good crowd, like those things that make playing music worth it, like why we do it. Like, I think we all do it for that little touch of ego boost, but you know how it is when you play a really good show and it feels good.
Yeah, there's something about the volume.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Feeling my monitor, feeling
Yep.
my kick coming through my monitor. Like, I
Yep.
miss those little
When
tiny.
they got really good subs under
Yeah.
the stage and you hit that kick drum and the
Yeah.
whole fucking thing shakes. Gensmer was telling me about, like, in smaller gigs, there's something that guys have to compensate for it.
Oh, the butt kicker.
Yeah, the butt kicker.
Yep.
I've never heard of this before.
Mhm.
Sounds like a hilariously stupid concept, but he's like, I tried one time and it actually it's kind of cool. It does simulate it a little bit.
Often thought, like, is this stupid? But it makes sense. It
Mhm.
is a feeling thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big reason, like, trying in-ear monitors a handful of times. That was the biggest thing I didn't like about it. I'm like, I don't have a monitor on my stage. I can't feel what I'm doing, and I don't like that. I think that's a big aspect of live playing that makes it fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
And it creates a different energy, and it creates a different
Yeah,
vibe.
and there's especially from a drumming perspective, it's a lot different because you get so used to the way your drums sound one way, and then when you play live, and you hear them mic'd up on a good PA, even just a decent PA, just hearing them mic'd up and bouncing back, and you hear everything, takes you a couple seconds. The first couple times, it takes you a few seconds to get used to it, but there's once you get used to it, you're like, that's the vibe.
Yeah.
Like, that's the vibe that we do this for. And
Yeah.
for me, it's kind of the same thing. It's the smell in the room. It's the anticipation, the excitement. Like, that's what we work for. It's like playing the football game on Sunday. Practice is fun too, but the game is why we do it.
Yeah.
And
big time.
So many of us say, like, we'll do it even if the room's empty, because it is better with the crowd. The bigger the crowd, the better. The louder the crowd, the better. But it doesn't really matter.
It
we
doesn't
don't
really
actually
matter.
need them there.
No, honestly, sometimes I've played to some small crowds that have been better than larger crowds that I've had. It's like the more,
as long as the room's not too big.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That sucks, man. The Fine Line's definitely been one of those venues for me where it's like, yeah, we're playing here and it's great, and there's like 30 people, and you know how big that room is, so it looks like there's 2.
Fuck, 30. That's heartbreaking when it's a venue that size and it's that small. 30 people hurts at Club Underground, which can only hold 200.
Yeah.
30 people hurt there. Fuck, even 200-300 people at Fine Line, it feels like there's something off. Like, the energy's just not right. Like, yeah, and like, I don't know how to explain it either. It's just like, there's something about playing live where it's legitimately therapeutic.
Yeah, it is.
And it can't be replicated.
No.
Again, even if the room is empty, it's still better than just another rehearsal.
Yeah, I think it's like, lighting and mood, and like you said, smells of different places, even if it fucking stinks.
Right, but there's still a smell.
There's a smell.
There's a smell to music venues that is different than bars.
There is.
There's I don't know what it is. It's probably the cables. We're probably smelling all that rubber from the cables that overpowers the booze and the sweat and the vomit. I mean, what else could it be,
Yeah.
It's got to be the PA gear that we're smelling,
There
the
is
leather and the
something.
rubber. But yeah, it's like, when I play live, I feel like I'm home.
Yeah.
Like if you were to, play some like old, reincarnation shit, and like I've lived multiple lives, like,
Yeah.
this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
I agree with that 1,000%. That's exactly what it is. It's like you said, this is where I belong. Like, this is what makes me happiest. And
and for me, it's a comfort thing. Like, I love doing all the other shit in my life. Don't get me wrong. All those other things are super fun. I loved playing sports. I love doing the podcast. I love doing everything. But everything I do feels like I'm posing a little bit, and it's like, this is fun, but like, this isn't my bread and butter. When I play live music, it's like there's a comfort, like this calm, like, I got this.
Yeah.
Like, I was born to do this.
Yep.
Like, there's no doubt in my mind. Even when you have a shitty show,
Oh,
and
yeah.
you're just beating yourself up, you're still like, that was
Oh,
fucking
been
awesome.
there.
It's still
Been
awesome.
there so many times.
Have you ever gotten angry at the end of a show where you like can't even enjoy it, and then somebody comes up and they're like, "What are you so pissed? It was an amazing show."
Yeah, I've definitely had those nights. Oh, big time.
You got any secrets for recovering from those? Because it's tough to get out of that headspace. I couldn't hear my fucking kick drum all night.
Yeah, it is. I don't know. I feel that like kind of giddy, happy when somebody comes up to me and like tells me that I played really good or my band was really good. Like I definitely have that conversation with myself in my head. I'm like, you fucking sucked. But like it still makes you feel really good. And I think that's part of it too. You know, like I said, we're all as musicians, I think we're a touch driven by ego. Some of us more than others, but
No,
like
definitely.
there's that ego stroking that feels good.
Yeah, somehow we're all a little damaged inside and need the validation.
Dude, totally. Seriously,
I don't know what it is, but it's true.
It's very true.
It's so true.
I don't know a single musician who doesn't feel that way or think that way sometimes.
Exactly.
Like, there's that part of it. So I love those times. Like, even if there's 4 people in the crowd and somebody comes up to me and is like, I really enjoyed it. It makes me feel really good and excited. And even if I am punching my own face in my head, like,
I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, my favorite, though, is when I get off stage and I perceived it as a shitty show. And people I know and trust walk up and they're like, dude, no, it was actually really good. Like, whatever you think went wrong, none of us actually heard it.
Right.
Because they could see me getting pissed off during the set. They could see, like, my mood changing because they knew me personally.
Yeah.
And so they could be like, he's getting really irritated. Like, and I've even had somebody come up, like, sneak on stage and be like, dude, it's
Chill
fine.
out.
No, I never get that because they know better. Like, on stage, my adrenaline's at 11. You say chill out, you're getting kicked in the mouth. Yeah, exactly. Get the fuck out of here. No, but they'll be like, dude, no, it's actually good. Like you. Basically, it's always almost what we're kind of alluding to here, guys. If you're listening to this, is like, I don't want to blame the sound guy. Sometimes it's just a bad PA or, you know, fucking cable isn't working, you know, whatever the situation may be. Maybe a lot of times it is just a really bad sound.
I think you go into it now, the more you play out, the more you go into it thinking something's going to fucking suck tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of have to be prepared for that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to get at. Like, eventually these things stop bothering you altogether, but these are all learning curves that drummers go through. And there's a period of time where you go through where you know your shit so well. Like, I've had shows where I can't hear any of my drums except for my snare drum. I'm going 100% off feel. All I can hear is my snare drum, one of the guitar players, or the only guitar player in certain circumstances, and the singer. And I just have to trust my preparation and do my job. And the whole time, like, again, people that really know me, they can see me, like, between songs just shaking my head like, this is a shit show. And then they get off and they go, hey, man, like, it was actually really good, dude. Like, I know I could tell you were getting irritated up there. Like, and guys will hear me every once in a while when you try to, like, you're trying to yell over to the sound guy, like, hey, man, I can't hear my kick drums. Fucking turn my kick drums up between songs, you know, like, turn my monitor up, dude. I can't. And you're just not getting cooperation from the sound guy. He's like, it's up all the way. And it's like, dude, is it even plugged in then? Like, I dealt with that one a few times where it's like, I get done with my set and I pull my drums off stage. And when I'm coming back up to grab my last piece of equipment, I look over and I see he's like, no, dude, your monitor's up plenty loud. You're fucking deaf. And he's kind of being a dick. And I see the monitor's not even plugged in. And I'm like, that's why I couldn't fucking hear what was going on. But again, I've had guys come up on stage and they're like, dude, I know you're frustrated. Like, you're getting a bad monitor mix. You can't hear this. But out there, it sounds phenomenal. And I'm like, really? And they're like, yeah, that's the only way I can fucking prevent that from, like, ruining my night. And then, because even when I get off, people are like, dude, it's great. It's great. It's great. It's great. And it's so hard to take that seriously because almost no one will come up and be like, no, dude, you're right. It was a terrible show.
Right.
You
Well,
were
nobody's
really off.
ever going to say that to you.
I did once. I talked about it on the podcast. I did. I've already talked about it on a podcast. I don't want to name her again, but if somebody's really curious, they can go back and find it. But basically, she got off stage and everyone was kissing her ass and she was shit-faced and it was a horrible show.
Oh.
And she came up to me, knowing me personally as a peer, and she's like, hey, how was it? Because she was like, no, it was bad. And everyone's like, it was great. And she came up to me and she's like, how was it? And I was like, it was not your best night. And she looked at me like, what? And I was like, it wasn't your best night. Like, you've had better nights. Fucking people lit me up. I almost got kicked out of the venue that night. Like, it went as bad as it could. And then she called me the next day and she's like, dude, thank you. She's like, you were the only one who was honest with me. I watched the tape. That we record every show. I watched the tape, and no, it was bad. Like, she's like, I need to make sure I'm not like drunk before I go on. And I was like, yep.
Those moments happen.
Anytime, hon, give me a call. I'll give you honest advice. Anytime. Like, I'm not gonna blow, because that's what I want. If I'm that performer, tell me it sucked.
Yeah.
Don't blow smoke up my ass. That doesn't help me.
It's also hard to, going along with that ego thing, it can get hard to take criticism at that point. So I think that's where there's also tiptoeing that fine line of you suck ass and yeah, it was really great,
Yeah. Luckily, I've never had that. I've never had where I came off. Here's one I'll ask you. Have you ever had a perfect show?
I feel like I've had some shows that I would call perfect, even if there was still tiny mistakes.
Really? I cannot say that. I can tell you that I've never walked off stage happy with a performance.
I feel like I can't say there's a ton of times, but I can think of some times where I felt really fucking good and I'm like, I'm doing really fucking good. And
yeah, I did walk off. I would agree with that. I've walked off like I felt good about that one.
Right.
But it never was like, that was my A game. Because I always feel like there was something I fucked up quite badly somewhere. But again, I was really, like we talked earlier, going back to what we said, like I was really good at covering up those mistakes. Like,
right.
My stick broke in this part, like my fucking kick drum broke at the end of this song, or not broke, but the double pedal fell apart, and I'm fucking rocking one kick drum at the end of this, trying to just fucking on one fucking foot, which
that happens so many
which like
times.
I knew I was able to pull off. It's like I know that sounded right because I can hear it and feel it. Like, so I'm like, it technically was fine, but like there's just, I can never be, and it's not just the drumming either. I noticed this in my life. Like I lack contentment. And I was like, no, it could have been better. And like, I can't help it.
Yeah.
I can't help it. I really can't.
I think that's a musician trait. An artist trait often, not even just musician. I feel like artists in general.
Yeah.
We all have this terribly negative mindset that just
we are our
looms.
worst enemies.
Man, we really are. We really are.
Like if you're trying to make a musician feel bad by trolling them online, trust me, they've already said that to themselves.
Yeah.
Whatever you can think of, they've also said that to themselves. Which is hilarious because, like, I don't think people really realize that. Like, we're going back and forth, almost contradicting ourselves. Like, we just got done saying, like, don't blow smoke up my ass and tell me it was great because that doesn't help me. But at the same time,
don't tell me I'm bad either.
Yeah, don't tell us we're a piece of shit because we were already beating ourselves up enough. You're kind of our coaches. You're our fans and our coaches at the same time.
Yep.
Like, hold us accountable when we didn't but don't be a dick.
Yeah.
Like, we're fragile people. Like, you say something mean enough, we'll fucking think it's true and we'll go cry. We'll cry ourselves. I don't care how badass that dude looks in that metal band. You say something mean enough, he will go home in tears.
Yep.
Just stop being so mean to us, guys. I'm already getting some of that shit on the podcast too. Which is fine. Like, I know I suck at this. I'm working on it, guys. I'm trying.
New.
I have no idea what I'm doing. I mean, let's just be honest. It's not like being a musician.
Done a podcast, so this is interesting for me also.
Well, thank you for doing it. I'm excited to have you on. I've been looking forward to this because we never broed down or anything, but we were always cool and we had a lot of mutual friends.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those weird ass things because, like, it's got to be a drummer thing because you're sitting up there hidden behind your drum set because I knew you for a long time and I didn't realize Newman was in Foo Fighters, so I knew he was in the morning, but I didn't know you were in the morning. Like, I had no idea all of these things were connected there because I had seen both bands live.
Right.
And like
The music seems
I'm like,
though.
how did I see Foo Fighters and not recognize Newman? He must have been out and somebody filled in for him.
No.
Like,
that didn't happen until we got a new guitar player a while ago. I don't think he
I'm so
ever missed a
confused.
show.
I'm so confused. Or I was shit-faced and maybe you guys like were like done or something. Like, I don't fucking know.
That could be very real. Yeah, Foo Fighters didn't get Eric's been with us for just over 2 years now.
I'm such an idiot. I'm sorry, guys. Do you have any gigs lined up?
No.
None?
Nothing.
God,
we have that radio show. It sucks. It sucks so bad.
Do you guys book yourselves?
Yeah. I don't know. Like Natalie does all the booking for herself, and some of it's acoustic gigs by herself, and then some of it's full band.
Well, the original stuff, you're fucked. But
Yeah,
the cover stuff, you can still get some gigs doing the cover stuff right now.
The cover stuff, I mean, well, I had my surgery, so I kind of had to take some time off.
Oh, yeah,
from
that's
that.
right.
Yeah. So I'm mostly recovered from that. Haven't rehearsed or played.
So I know we kind of
band in a
talked
while.
about this before the podcast, and we don't have to go into extreme detail, but people are going to be pissed if I don't ask you to elaborate on that. So you had ear surgery
Yes.
because you had a bursted eardrum.
Yes.
What the fuck happened?
Yeah.
How did this happen?
So basically, like 6-ish years ago, I got super sick. It was a flu, turned into a cold, turned into a sinus infection that just went way out of control, and I literally lost my entire eardrum. I had blood pouring out of my head for a week, and it was really.
What do you mean you lost your eardrum?
My whole
Like it dissolved?
My whole eardrum was gone. Like it ruptured, but it ruptured entirely. Like ruptures are not
Wow.
uncommon. Sometimes infections get there, and most of the time it'll rupture and then it'll heal by itself. But mine was so severe, like my whole eardrum was literally gone.
How does that happen?
Just pressure, mostly
On the inside,
on the inside.
pressing out?
I am not actually sure about that. I'm not sure if it goes out to in or in to out.
It's got to be out to into out,
I
right?
am not sure how that works exactly.
It's got to be.
Something.
Because otherwise it'd just come out of your ear.
Right. But I bled like constantly out of my ear for a week. It was horrible.
That's hot.
Yeah. It was real hot. The ladies flocked. I was like, hey, baby.
Chicks do dig blood. Chicks do dig blood. It's kind of creepy, but let's be honest.
So I had a surgery back then they took a piece of my scalp. And
this was 6 years ago.
This was 6 years ago. So
Fuck.
they took a piece of my scalp, skin grafted that where my eardrum should be. And then probably 3-4 months ago, I had
So what did they take something out of your scalp like the size of a pencil eraser? Like
it's
super
small,
tiny? Yeah,
like when my head's more shaved, you can see like a scar.
And what do they
but
like? You got like 7 layers of skin. So what do they
I
thin that out?
I don't know.
You didn't ask any questions. I would have wanted to know all of this shit.
I was just like, okay, you're gonna take my scalp.
Just fix me.
That's cool. I'm like, yeah, basically, just please make it stop hurting. It was the worst pain I've ever felt in my life.
Even after it had ruptured.
Yeah. For that, like, next.
What is the pain like?
I've broken bones and been able to get up and walk it off in a sense, and this made me wake up and cry.
What was the
multiple
pain like?
It
like
was
describe it.
Like somebody was sticking a knife that was on fire inside of my head and twisting it. Like it was horrible. And it, like with the way this is gonna get, I guess, graphic, the way that it was pulling out of my head was probably the most disturbing thing. Like I had to sleep with a towel on my pillow. I had to put a cotton ball in there, and I was changing it out every 20 minutes because it would just start leaking. Like it was fucking
blood,
like blood and ear goop sometimes, like just fucking bad.
Wild,
really bad.
And so you originally got this surgery. How long was the initial recovery when it was like 6 years ago that this had started?
It was the same. I essentially just had the same surgery. So basically what happened, it opened back up. a few months ago, and I don't know how it happened. I had gone to a cabin and jumped in a lake and got a bunch of water in there, and I kept feeling weird. I couldn't get the water out.
So do you have tubes in your ears?
No, not right now. I have had tubes a lot of times, 5 times.
Before, during, or
No,
since
when I
this
was
shit?
when I was like a kid. Like the last time I had them, I was in 5th grade.
Because that's the only time I've ever heard of anything like this.
Yeah.
When we were kids, certain kids had to have tubes put in their ears.
Because when you're younger, it's really common in infants because your eustachian tubes aren't developed, and that's where like fluid drains and stuff like that. And a lot of infants, they're not developed, so fluid gets backed up in the ear, and like that's a really common thing. And mine don't work properly anyways, so that's why I've like been really prone to infections and stuff like that throughout my life. But
So what made it flare up this time? You're not 100% sure.
I'm not sure.
You think it was the lake
I think
thing?
it was the lake. I jumped in the water, got a bunch of water in there, and it was super painful, and then I couldn't get it out, and then it started to like really hurt, and like I think there's an infection. And
How long did it take? Right away, or was it like a couple days later?
I mean, I tried to let it go for a few days because I'm like, well, there's probably just water in my head and it needs to get out, and then it wouldn't come out, and then I went and got seen at a minute clinic, and they told me it was infected. Got antibiotics and drops, and the second time I put the drops in, it was painful. It was like dropping liquid fire into my head. Like it hurt really bad, and I'm like, something's wrong. I tried to let it go another couple days, and I'm like, something's wrong here. So I finally called the ENT and went in and got it seen, and I opened back up as soon as she
ENT is ear, nose, and throat specialist.
Yeah.
That's wild.
She said it's really bizarre because she said normally like
get a little closer to that mic.
Normally with a rupture it like pokes through, but mine this time was kind of like a flap. But it's right over like where my bones are, which is really dangerous. So that's why she said I needed to get it fixed right away. So this time they fixed my eardrum with pig skin. So now my eardrum is part my own scalp and part pig skin.
You're a fucking weirdo.
Yeah.
You're a fucking weirdo now. That's awesome. You're like the first step towards superheroes.
Yes. I'm so metal.
Pig chick.
Pig ear.
It'll be
It's really bizarre. The initial plan they had told me was to take a piece of my ear cartilage. But apparently the pig skin is more pliable and is a bit more like the tissue there, so they decided to try that.
Did they give you any advice as to how to prevent this in between these ordeals?
No.
Like earplugs when you go in the water?
I mean, I think
anything?
I'm going to start doing that now. So even after my last surgery, I've had tubes so many times that I have a bunch of scar tissue.
Sure.
So essentially, even when I had that last surgery, there was a touch of it where it didn't close. Like I still had a tiny, tiny, tiny hole.
Holy fuck.
So I'm hoping that doesn't happen again because I think that's partially why this happened. There was that
there's
opening.
Enough shit getting in there, but
and
not
then,
enough to get out.
Yep.
That's so fucking weird how that does that. I got cauliflower ear, and so I've been trying to figure out like how it actually happens. You know, I've been looking into that shit, and basically blood gets in there somehow, like more than it should, or it doesn't get out as fast as it should.
Right.
And it just sits there and sits there and sits there, and then eventually the blood coagulates and hardens.
Ooh.
And it's a giant fucking hardened blood clot sitting in my ear, and it's like if you squeeze it, like here, I'll show you. Like, can you see that?
Oh, that's crazy.
Look at my regular ear, and then the collar. Here, squeeze it.
Dude,
it's
weird.
Like thick, and it's like rock hard.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I could have it removed, but
your ear?
No, the
blood
it was like they have a way to remove it and fix it surgically.
Just chop your ear off.
No, the thing is now it's a weapon. If I'm ever in a fight and I'm like wrestling somebody, I can just grind my ear into their eye socket. It's just another weapon. You know, I learned that from a UFC fighter I was listening to him on his podcast. He's like, yeah, fuck that. I just grind that shit into someone's face. And it's like, God, I was like, that is genius. Yeah, fuck it. We're keeping it.
Why not?
It does get uncomfortable, though. Yeah, you got to pee? Go for it. I will try to entertain people. If you guys like the podcast, I appreciate it so much. If you guys want to follow my social media, go to Jared Singer Live at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Right now, I really don't do much on there. Pretty much just kind of give people heads up about the podcast and stuff like that. There will be more music updates eventually as we get a little bit more shit together. Also, I hear you. I understand that I interrupt my guests too much, and I get it, but I'm working on it. So, noted, guys. I got it. And also, I do not check my friend requests. And if you guys are messaging me to either get on the podcast or adding me as a friend on my personal Facebook page, I do not check those message requests. I do not check I see every once in a while a notification that I've got a friend request. I don't do that. The easiest thing, the smartest thing to do is to go to Jared Singer Live on Facebook and hit me up that way. You could message me on there if you want to come on the podcast. I do respond to there. And then same thing, you can just follow me there and get the updates. The personal Facebook page is literally just for my close personal friends so I can stay updated on their fucking shows and stuff like that. And every once in a while I'll like seed a joke or something on there, but there's really not a huge reason to follow me on social media yet. But if you guys support, you want to do all that kind of shit, go for it. I appreciate it. The biggest thing is like, subscribe, and share to this right now. I'm about to actually hit that hundo subs. That hundo subs, baby. Which people keep asking me why I keep mentioning 100 subs. Like, why does that matter? It's pretty simple. I keep saying I need it because that's when I get my own URL. People apparently don't know what a fucking URL is. So that's so I can like literally have youtube.com/the Jared Singer Extravaganza address. Whereas right now, if you look at the top of the page, it's youtube.com/chaos basically. So yeah, that's why we got to get to 100 subs. They make it a bracket we got to hit. I'll also take this chance to plug my boy John Wheeler. Go over and look up either down below on my channel in the featured channel section, or just do a YouTube search, the Alchemical Cocktail Lounge. The Alchemical Cocktail Lounge. That's all you gotta know. He's got a few shows on there. We're trying to get him to 100 subs as well. And then subscribe to Leigh. Her YouTube channel is down below as well. She's actually, what are you at, like 95? 97, something like that. But you already have your fucking URL, so you don't need that shit.
I guess I don't.
She just needs. She didn't need anything, but
I need to start doing more videos. Is what I need. I was doing that all the time back in the day, and we were talking earlier. I got a GoPro.
Yeah.
And now it's too fancy for the equipment I have.
Yep.
So I've done one video. Natalie got helped me edit a video a while ago, and that's all I've done. But I got a few other covers like ready to go. So
let's just talk about that now. Then that's like a perfect fucking transition. So one of the things you did coming out of all the projects you've done, one of the things that I think is really smart, and I think more musicians need to do, is figure out a way to brand and monetize themselves. So you do lessons and shit, but you also do cover videos, drum cover videos, which are extremely popular, very cool to watch. Maybe if you're just a regular music fan, it's not something you'd be interested in. But if you're a drummer, you definitely watch drum cover videos.
Yeah.
Like, it's inevitable.
Yeah.
You've got your favorite cover people out there. Some names that are known are guys like Jared Vine or Jared.
Yeah, Jared Vines. He's funny.
Yeah, that guy. There's plenty of people out there. You also do that.
Yeah.
And actually, it's youtube.com/ITM drummer.
Yep.
That's what your YouTube page is. We're gonna have to change that. You know that, right? We gotta change the customization of that. It's got to be your page. It says Leigh Underwood at the top, but the URL is ITM drummer.
I mean, it was true at one point.
Technically,
I don't know. I haven't done much with that stuff lately, and I think it was
I'm sure we can change it.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
might have to get to 100 subs to change it. Though,
I'd
now.
really like to do more with that, and I think living in this house, like we were talking about earlier, it's gonna make me play more. I think that's gonna greatly improve my chops. Like,
let me ask you a silly question. You mentioned you're not the techiest person on the video side of things. Neither am I. Would you be willing, if one of the listeners out there and they're like interested in drum lessons, would you be interested in exchanging drum lessons if they could hook you up and teach you how to fix your GoPro problem?
yes,
and get it all done?
I would.
There you go, guys. If you want a couple of free drum lessons in exchange for teaching Leigh how to get her
Teach me not to be a dum-dum with technology.
Well, and because you had them down and then you upgraded your camera, and now every once in a while you were saying it like halfway through the song it'll off sync. Is it when you like, are you doing different angles? Explain this to me.
No, it's literally staying in one spot. I even had this, like, we were talking about Windows Movie Maker earlier. That's all I was using. I had one of those. Do you remember those Alesis video tracks from way back in the day?
No, I don't. But I do remember the old Alesis machine.
It was like a shitty little, at the time it was not that bad, but it was like a shitty little handheld audio video recorder. It actually had 2 little mics.
No shit.
Coming off of it.
And a camera?
And a camera. And that's how I recorded like all of my old videos. So I did that. I uploaded the MP3
and
into Windows Movie Maker.
And then just muted yourself.
I would just play play the audio from my video over the MP3.
Oh, gotcha.
And line it up that way.
And then just sort of mix the levels so it sounded right.
And then I had a newer, nicer computer at the time, and I think that worked pretty streamlessly.
Streamlessly?
Streamlessly.
Seamlessly?
Seamlessly. Streamlessly. That's a new word.
We're in the new...
Coining it.
We're in the new era.
Streamlessly.
That's beautiful. I'm going to see if I can pull
I know
this
where
up.
I was going with that. But then, yeah, I had lost that computer and got out of the living situation I was in where I didn't have, like, access to play drums in my own home anymore.
Do you still have the Alesis recorder?
I do. I do still have it. So
you just don't want to go back to it because you spent all this money on this GoPro.
No, Natalie got it for me for Christmas last year.
Same thing. Yeah, you have something much nicer. You want to figure out how to use it.
I mean, man, it had been years since I had tried to use that video track, and then I tried to use it again probably 2 years ago. And the one that I have is so old, it would like stop filming in the middle, or I would go back and watch the video I would recorded, and it would play like the first 10 seconds and then just freeze the rest of the time. And it just looked shitty. It was kind of low quality. Like if it's even a little bit dark, it started to get grainy. And
lighting is key. Lighting is so big. I still don't have the podcast lit properly. I'm doing the best I can, but I'm gonna remodel this whole thing soon. Actually, I'm gonna make it much better. Which I think this was definitely a good enough starting point, though.
I thought this was a garage.
When you were watching it,
that's
cool. I'm cool with that.
Yep,
I'm cool with that.
It looked like a garage.
That doesn't sound like a compliment, but I'm taking it that way.
Because
basically the fact that
insult either. It just looks like a different dwelling.
Basically, the fact that it doesn't look like it's in my basement is cool. That's what I mean. Like, that's why I'm taking it as a compliment, because I didn't want it to look like it was just a spot in my basement.
Right.
But and then over on this side of the curtain, I actually have my jam space. So like,
there you go.
My drum set and like the amps and everything is. So like when we rehearse, if you want to come over sometime, maybe next time you do the podcast, come over a little early if you can. Maybe we won't do it on a work night. And
there's at least a curtain here though. It looks like closed off and like it's in a room. It doesn't look like a shitty garage.
Right,
like this
or
guy,
a shitty basement.
Yeah.
That was my biggest thing, because like I did a couple test runs of the podcast and watched them back, and I was like, man, I gotta figure something out. And me and my wife went out 2 nights before episode 1 and bought all this fabric and the dowels and everything, and figured out a way to engineer this whole thing and like make it a room. And one thing we didn't see coming that ended up working out really well is it gets really cold down here in the winter. So we've got a couple different heaters, and it sort of helps keep the heat in a little bit. At least it makes it cozier in here. But Guess who my roommate is? You remember Kevin Sullivan?
Kevin?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah, he's upstairs right now studying. But I was gonna say next time you come on the podcast, maybe come a little early. Kevin's bass rig is down here. He's got the thunderous Mark bass.
Yeah.
The big ass Mark bass rig from the Tyrants.
Yep.
He's got that down here. I got my Tama Star Classic kit down here. Remember how much we used to talk about our love of Tama Star Classics? I mean, this bitch has got a Tama tattoo, so let's not even front who loves Tama more.
It was like kind of in line with my Portnoy tattoo.
Right? But do you play Iron Cobras as well?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, see, I play Iron Cobras, but I use the DW beaters. I need that extra mass in order to get the rhythm right.
I am the same. So I had a customer.
No shit. You use the 5,000 beaters?
I don't use the DW beaters, but I like the weight.
I see what you're saying.
Had started wanting a heavier beater, and there's this kind of weird dude who's come into all the shops that I've worked at all the years, who I had that conversation with him one time. I'm like, man, like, I think I'd really like some heavier beaters, and we were talking different beater options, and he brought in for me at Christmas time a pair of those Danmar skateboard wheel beaters.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought they were going to be stupid. I was like, I don't know about this, man. Okay, like, I'll try them.
They literally look like skateboard wheels.
They are
I know what
skateboard wheels, yeah. And I tried them, and I fucking love them.
Sick.
But they absolutely annihilate heads.
Of course.
Like, I literally started to having to put like 3 patches on my right side.
Oh, no shit.
Like, they destroy heads.
Wow.
So I kind of backed off of those for a while. And then a customer at Clash came in, and he had ordered some of those. What are they called? Oh man, they're Trick Dead Blow beaters, and they're metal, but they're like kind of rounded on the face.
Shit.
And he was talking to me about them because I'm like, oh, these like seem kind of interesting, and he was super fucking cool. Like, as we were talking about him, and like, I told him about my skateboard wheel beaters, and he like gave me one of the beaters that he ordered.
Really?
And he's like, you can just try this. He's like, I have a bunch of others. I just wanted some more for other pedals, and like gave me one to try, and I fucking love them, and I actually want to order some myself.
Gotcha.
Like,
okay.
It has that mass. It has that little extra slap too. Like, felt started getting a little too soft. I don't like click, but I want a little bit of.
Yeah, I want it. I always say I want it to sound like I'm in a Rocky movie and I'm in the freezer and I'm punching that slab of meat.
Dude, yes.
You feel me on that? That's what I want. It's not a click.
Nope, not a click.
It's a slap, but not. It's got
but
meat
not a
behind
dead
it.
slap.
Like, yeah. There's. It's the hardest thing to try to explain to somebody when they don't know what you're talking about already. Like, I want to sound like I'm in the Rocky movie in the freezer punching the cow or the pig or whatever that sound. That's what you're looking for. Because there's something about it that cuts through the mix. And then if you've got like a nice size kick drum, a standard size kick drum, and you like don't over blanket it, you get enough boom and percussion from the shell, but you get that slap that we're talking about on the front side, and you just get this amazing kick tone that cuts through the mix, and it just sounds great when a whole band is playing. It just, people are like, God damn, your drums sound good. And but they don't necessarily. Let me ask you this. Do you subscribe? Jacob Muley taught me something when we all worked together, and I took it to an extreme, but when I told him about this, he was like, I think you've gone too far with this idea until he seen us live. And he was like, dude, as long as you can play, that is one of the best sounding kits I've ever heard mic'd up. So it's the Star Classic that's in the room. You actually have seen that kit multiple times.
Yeah.
I brought it into the shop a couple times. You helped me fit it for drum heads when I didn't know what I was doing. Like, you guys all met me when I just started playing drums. That's the best part of this whole thing. I actually got good, and like the band did well, and like that's the hilarious part of this podcast. So many people think like I was like, the bands were always doing well, and it's like no, there was a period of time where I was really bad at this instrument, and we were like outdoing shit, and people were like, this guy's playing drums, like he doesn't even know what these things are called. Like, oh god, it was hilarious. But anyways, we had. I was talking. What was I fucking talking about? God, I'm not even drinking. I swear to God, stopping drinking for even just a few days has fucked my brain up. I'm not even drunk, and I'm losing my train of thought. What were we just talking about?
Drums, you playing in your band.
But we were talking about like drum tone and shit.
Star Classic, your bass drum.
Yeah. What the fuck was the point though? Christ. Oh yeah. I remember. Jake Muley taught me something about like how to do this, right? And he was like, "Here's the secret. You're not actually trying to get your drums to sound great when you're playing by yourself. You want them to sound great when you're mic'd up and playing live." Because we were in a live band. So he taught me some principles how to do that, and I took it to the extreme. So like when people play my drum set, they're like, "Dude, what the fuck did you do to this thing?" So like my tom heads are super loose. Like you're not getting a lot of bounce because I use those double coated. I think they're the EC2s.
Yeah, with the ring.
And the gel in them. Because I get this matted thump instead of a boom. I hate that. Boom. So I just muted everything, and it sounds kind of shitty when you play the kit by itself. People are like, "Dude, that shit doesn't even sound very good, man." I was like, "Wait till the whole band kicks in."
Yeah.
Sure as shit. Every fucking time I do it, they're like, "All right, you're right. That sounds amazing." And it's because it's this principle we have called cut through the mix. Get it to sound good when everyone's playing.
I hate that deadness too. That's like, oh, I want my drums. Like, I don't want them to ring, but I want them to sing. Like, there's a difference.
Do you tune your drums to a key?
No. I've never gotten that picky with it. Like, I know when they sound good. I know when they're at their prime, sort of thing. But no, I've never been a sit down and tune to an actual tuner sort of person. I actually had an old coworker of mine when I worked at Guitar Center in Dallas that taught me how to tune. That dude could make sound percussion kits sound like fucking DWs. Like,
remember Jingo was like that?
Yeah, man. But
Jingo could get any drum kit to sound phenomenal.
yeah, he really could. And that my old coworker was exactly like that. And he's the one, like, every time a new drum set came in, if it was dead over in the guitar section, he would come over and would like show me how to tune. And it was like the biggest trick that he taught me was the little baby turns. And I think every drummer makes this mistake of when your drum's too low and you want it a little higher, you do like a quarter turn all the way around, and then it's like doing like
Yep.
There's that constant up and down. So he's the one that really taught me about like fine turns, like barely fucking turn that key. And
that's why I love the tuning key, the nice one. Where you turn the dial to attention.
The torque key.
Yeah. I love that thing because it takes all the thinking out of it, and you can do that.
Right.
You can fucking set it so fine to where it's like you barely move this thing and click, and then do the next one, click, and sure as shit, you get all the way. You do it right. You get across the drum, and boom, it's just exactly what you want.
I've never actually used one of those.
I fucking love it, especially live. You know, because sometimes shit just doesn't work right. You know, you fucking pull your drums out of the cold trailer, things loosen up, all of a sudden you're fucking playing.
My
you see
floor toms particularly.
What the fuck is going on?
Buzzy,
yeah, and it's always this, for me, it's always the
bottom.
On all the drums, it's always the bottom side. I mean, it still happens on the top, but the bottom are like fucking notorious. I started using the tuning locks, the little pieces of shit plastic.
I need to use those on my Supra.
They're great live. That's what I use them for. Is I use that torque key and I use the fucking pegs or the little plastic squares. And as soon as I get it sounding good, I put it on there because I'm like, I don't give a fuck how much this thing warms up or gets cold. You know, like remember when we used to play at venues and they make before you go on, if you're not opening and it's not big enough to backline, you had to put your gear on the side of the stage and they'd put you next to the door. In the middle of the winter, I have a drum set sitting at room temperature next to the loading door where people open and sub-zero weather is coming in and blasting my drum set every 15 minutes. That is where those fucking tuning locks saved my ass because it didn't matter. The peg isn't turning.
I get that a lot because I am kind of a 90% rim shot player. Unless I'm playing something like intricate, I am on that rim. So like especially on my Supra, and those are kind of notorious for detuning anyways. Right where I'm hitting, that tension rod comes loose really fast. And I've
What's
actually
the super
broken.
kit?
What's that?
What's the super kit?
The Supraphonic.
What the fuck
The
is
Ludwig snare. It's the most.
that?
Yeah.
Oh,
Every drummer's got to have one, man. Every drummer.
How much is that snare?
400-ish.
That's actually not too bad.
No, like used, you can find them 400-ish. I think they're 6, 7 new. Those have
That's
been
not bad. I paid $3 for my Star Classic. I think it's Bubinga or it's Birch
Yeah.
Bubinga. I can't remember. I got to look at it again.
I've
I
got
know
a-
it's Bubinga. I just
I've
can't
got an
remember.
SLP Babinga that I really like. I actually just busted that thing out again recently. I got a Tama Brass Starphonic a couple years ago, and that's been my favorite snare, but I cannot use it for everything because it's loud.
Didn't you have like one of the last Bubinga Tama Star Classic kick?
I have the last Birch.
That's what it was.
Yep. So I have the last
Birch kit.
last year they did the 100% Birch Star Classic, and that is my baby.
Because you can still get a Birch Bubinga Star Classic.
They
but
actually
you,
stopped making those.
okay, so now they stopped making them all, and now it's maple only.
I think
Because they stopped making Birch first, and then it was Birch Bubinga.
something happened with
We're talking about woods, you
Babinga
guys.
where you can't. I don't know if you can't order it from specific countries or something. There's some weird thing with Babinga, but they stopped making the Birch Babinga. Now it's Birch Walnut. And
Yep.
I don't even know. I think in the higher end, like the Star series, that they still do the Babinga. But those kits are.
Yeah, there's some weird
There's something.
wood wars going on with imports of rare woods and like.
But I do have a Babinga snare, like an all Babinga snare, the SLPE.
I think that's what I got.
That thing is nice.
Not the
man.
SLP, but I think it's an all Bubinga snare.
Oh.
And
If it was $300-ish, I think it is the SLP because that's what I have.
is that still the Star Classic?
No,
'Cause it is-
a
it is-
different line. Oh, it's a Star Classic.
Yeah,
Oh,
I can
sweet.
just grab it real quick. Hold on. You're the fucking expert. I barely know.
I
what I'm
love
about.
talking drums, man.
I know, and I need to get back into like my gear knowledge because being away from GC, I've forgotten so much. I remember the principles of how to like figure out if gear is good or not, but just in the fucking 10 years I've been gone, the industry and like things have changed
yeah.
like so much. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And they're like, oh, the Fender's been doing that run for 3 years now. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I've never even fucking known this.
There's certain stuff I don't have as much knowledge of anymore, but I'm in my, I think, 13th year of music retail, so I've been around it for quite a while. Oh, yeah. That's the Birch Babinga.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it
I
is Birch
remember
Bubinga.
that. You need new wires, dude.
Yeah, that's what I said. It just broke. And I swear to God, it happened when it was like one popped. One of those wires popped, and I was like,
This was like the first run of this drum that they did. I remember when these came to GC.
Yeah. that. And the thing is that
They're nice drums,
that
dude.
fucking snare rocks.
It does. They're
and
nice.
then I picked up the wrong head. I like the one with the little portholes in it.
Oh, the dry.
Yeah,
Yep.
the HD dry. Oh, and then I tune that fucker like a fucking like a drum head. I tighten it like a hand drum, you know, like when they took the old animal skin.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like that's how I like to have that top snare head.
I like more open. I
Do
like,
you?
yeah, I like that ring. I love that ring.
the ping.
I love
boing?
it. Oh, gotta have it.
It
There's
drives
been a
me
couple
nuts.
times I've recorded and the engineer's been like, "Do you want me to take that ring out of your snare?" I'm like, "Fuck
I will
no,
fire you,
dude.
bitch."
Yeah, no, leave it. I want to hear boing.
I'm cool with it when other people have it. I'm saying in my own music.
Yeah.
When I'm playing drums, if there's any ring out like that, I can't concentrate on anything else.
Yeah.
All I can hear is that fucking ring, and it drives me nuts.
It's such a personal thing, and that's always been a thing with drums. It's personal. Like,
And you should also change your drum tone based on the band you're in too.
yeah, I don't know if I've ever been. I get it, but I also don't know how much I believe in that. I guess if I had more kits, I'd be able to do that a little bit easier. But I feel like when I got them sounding good into where I want, I don't know. I think about that sort of stuff though. Like with my country band, I know I don't need to be as loud, and I've actually really wanted to invest in like a small kit.
Sure.
Because I don't need that emphasis quite as much. It doesn't need to be there. Like I need to be present, but I also don't need to be overbearing the band. So,
and you may not need to necessarily completely change out the entire kit. I know a lot of drummers that I really love and respect that switch out the cymbal set and the snare drum.
Yeah, I definitely
And then it's just a slight tuning difference on the toms to change the tone, but really the heads stay the same, but they'll bust out a snare that, I'm playing country tonight, grab everything, and they just grab a different cymbal bag and a different snare that night.
That's what I was saying with my Starphonic, that brass Starphonic. That I'm like, I can't take that out to a country. Wow. Oh yeah, no, that's just, it's not gonna happen. I definitely like, I feel that it's with the cymbals. Like, I can't fucking afford to buy another set of the cymbals that I want. Like, this shit's expensive, dude. That's an easy.
Sticks are what still catch me off guard because, like, I bought good enough gear to now. It's like even my cymbals, I don't break cymbals. You buy really nice cymbals, thin cymbals, they don't break if you play them properly. They just don't
break shit.
Do you?
I'm playing Foo Fighters stuff, man.
Do you hit your cymbal in the center? Or do you side swipe?
I mean, I side swipe, but there's times where I know I'm excited and I'm not paying attention to my technique anymore.
Yeah.
And there's just those moments, and
I had to switch.
That's those moments that we live for. Like, oh man, like this part of the song's happening. Like, there's definitely.
I had to change my drum setup to avoid it because it was exactly what you said. It was like I can do this all day in practice, but when we start playing live, everything changes and I start hitting things harder and whatever, a little bit more wild. So I physically changed the spot where my cymbal is. So where if I wanted to hit it in the center, it was actually uncomfortable way over here for me to do so. It was only comfortable and natural for me to side swipe.
Yeah.
And instead of me trying to swipe on the right side, like that, like a lot of dudes do that crash ride and get it to spin away from you, I learned to adjust it to where I had to hit it in front of me and it got a forward spin going the other way.
Yeah.
And these things, somebody is either fascinated by this discussion or they've turned it off and stopped listening. But this is like a little inside baseball from some drummer shit. And this is, like you said earlier, it's all personal opinion, subjective, like from tuning your drums to how you set up your drums. But there is certain borderline biblical techniques that if you don't want to break cymbals or sticks, there's certain fundamental things you can try to do where the physics behind it will prevent these things. But like you're saying, like
it goes out the window when you're in a situation where that adrenaline's going. Like, it's just different. Like, I pay attention to that when I'm not doing that. But I know I'm beating the absolute piss out of those cymbals, like at a Foo Fighters gigs especially. I think that's definitely been the demise of most of my cymbals.
For me, it's still the sticks, though. The sticks are what sneaks up on me. They just, because like heads are pretty easy to like prepare for. Like, you learn which heads last long.
I mean, I've had lots of broken head situations on stage.
Where you just go through them?
I've gone through.
See, some guys would argue that you should know, like, almost like your tires. Like, your tire is needing to be replaced before it blows out.
Yeah, but here's a situation, like we were just talking about those lug locks and my Superphonic. I remember I shouldn't bring my Superphonic out to Foo Fighters gigs for this reason. Like, I don't do this anymore because of this one particular reason. I'm smashing. We were talking about how that one tension rod that always comes loose. So then the head loosened enough. So like during the third or fourth song, I hit it and I popped the bottom ply of the head. Like, it didn't go all the way through, but I hit it and I'm like, something's wrong.
You could hear it
I
immediately.
could hear it immediately, and the more I like look through, I could start to see like a split underneath it.
Yep.
And
God damn it.
so there is like those little things that happen where it's like the head was fine. It's that it came untuned. It was loose.
Have you ever
and
gone
then
through a head in a gig?
Oh yeah.
That did happen to me once, and that was the most challenging thing to play through. Because like it starts as a little rip on the side or wherever it happened in the middle or whatever. Like it's usually in the middle where you hit most often is where
Right.
like it happened. And then you try to just play like a little off center, and then it just slowly grows until like, oh God. And you can't stop.
No.
You can't stop the band and be like, sorry guys, my snare drum broke. Give me a minute. Like you finish the song and then be
Yeah.
like, all right, dude, buy me 3 minutes. I either need to change my drum head or
flip drums. I started bringing a backup snare with the Fools when we were doing like 2-3 hour nights.
You ever had to borrow one?
I
Can
haven't
use
had to
someone's
do
snare?
that, but I actually had to like help another drummer. We used to play with an Alice in Chains tribute band called Junkhead, and I like had a really good relationship with those guys. They had a progressive rock band that I actually played on an album with. I did some percussion work with them. But the drummer in that band one time like broke a head on stage, and I remember him like looking at me, and his drum sounded weird, and I could see him going like pointing down at his drum like, what are you talking about? And I like finally ran on stage and I saw his whole head was split.
Yep.
So I was like, all right, hang on, man. Like, and went and got my snare and switched it out like in the middle of us like conversating.
That's awesome. Save the day.
Yeah, so I've had those
Because
situations.
I've been that drummer and had to like, dude, ask somebody if I can borrow their snare to
Yeah.
finish the set. Like, dude, my snare broke. Like, I'm unprepared for this. You know, like I switched my heads beforehand, but sometimes you just get a bad head.
Yeah.
Like I've had that too. You
I've
get a
had
brand
that
new
happen.
head. You rehearse the night before the gig to you know
Right.
stretch them out and get them ready, and then you show. And again, I think it's being a Minnesota musician. I think it's weather related.
Oh, the cold often has a lot to
Yeah,
do
you're
with
playing
that.
in a weird club. There's a draft
Yeah.
that you're fucking pumped. So you're running at like 101 degrees on pure adrenaline. So you don't even realize it's cold. But there's this super chill draft going right under your drum set that is like essentially like chilled your fucking kit, and you walk up and start banging on that snare drum, and it just cracks. It snares right or it cracks. It slices right across the snare drum head. Fucking brutal.
I feel like the worst equipment malfunction I ever had, like the most embarrassing. I filled in with an 80s cover band called Anthem for a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were doing
Shout out to John.
Journey Separate Ways, which is literally kick drum the entire way through. Like that kick drum doesn't stop, and my fucking beater flew off.
Oh my god! You forgot to just tighten the front of it
I
or
don't
something?
know if I just
Or
didn't
just
tighten
over
it down
time?
enough, or like something happened though. Like my fucking beater flew off, and
That's
a song
hilarious.
that's literally dun 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 dun
The
dun
whole time.
whole time.
Do you have double kicks? So could you at least
I
switch to the
didn't
left?
bring a double
No!
kick for no. I didn't play a double
so what
kick
did you
for
do?
that
Just
gig.
kick your drum with your foot?
Well, obviously everybody turns around and looks at me and is like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, I don't physically have a beater. Like I went to my floor tom
That's
for a second, but I like
insane.
motioned, and the singer like finally caught on, and he came and like snuck under there and put my beater back on, and then it flew off like
Yeah, because he didn't tighten it
3
again.
or 4 measures later.
Yep.
It was like the worst.
That is probably the same as mine. It wasn't a beater, but my bar fell off to my double pedal. So I'm sitting there trying to go
And you're going,
and and all of a sudden, like I see Kevin look back at me and John looks back at me, and I'm like, and I just finished the song with half the kick beats that are supposed to be there as fast as I can go on my right. And then finally I was just like, we finished, and I'm like, dude, I need a minute or two to fix this. He bought me some time. And then same thing, I couldn't find my tuning key, and I hadn't figured out the secret of the magnetic
Oh,
torque key.
yeah.
That's the
Those
other
are
thing.
nice.
So not only do I love the torque key for all the reasons I mentioned earlier, it's also magnetic. So when I'm playing live, it just goes on my floor tom on the outside lug sitting out there. And so I never hit it, but it's always there within reaching distance. It's
I have
not
my
stashed
pedal
anywhere else.
key. I use my pedal key. You know, the
Yeah.
Iron Cobra's got the little hammer key. That's the
Yep.
one that I try to just keep.
I lost
I
that.
also keep several spares.
I lost that.
Really?
Yep. That's why I have the magnetic one, because
Pretty common.
and I lost it on stage, right? So like I was on stage, I was in a hurry, and fucking I set it down because I didn't want to fucking try to bend it down and put it back in that clip, because isn't it under the pedal?
It's to the left.
Oh, and it goes up and down on
Yeah,
that one.
yep.
I think I'm thinking of the DW
the
one. Where it's
DW
like,
one's underneath.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it like clips
don't
down
like
into
that.
it. That's so stupid. Yeah, or I lost it some other way, some organic way, and I fucking love that torque key. But anyways, I hadn't figured out that little secret, and I couldn't find my regular tuning key, so I put the bar back on my left pedal and just tried to tighten that thing with my hand, and I made it through the first song, but immediately at the end of it could feel it loosening up again. So I had to keep going down there and tightening it with my hand in between every song. And by the end, my fingers were so fucking raw from trying to tighten a squared off screw. It made it hard to play, but I learned that lesson. And again, that's one of those things where it's like experience. You gotta, unless you listen to this stupid fucking podcast and you hear all these fucking life lessons that we've all had to live. It's not here. The recording's still going, so we're still good on the actual podcast. If I have to re-upload this, I want to see what just happened. Maybe it didn't. Maybe my shit just needed to fucking refresh. Looks like we're still going. That was weird. See, but that's why I have that little monitor sitting down there, is just in case something does
You can still see
collapse. And that's also why we do the backup here. Yeah, here's what I think happened is I think something happened with the frame rate. It dropped down to 0 because I saw the big red box, and then it just basically canceled on the screen. But
I love this snare sitting here now. This
it does
like
make
home.
it does make it feel better. I love the wood, the natural
It's
wood.
pretty, man.
And then I got that old shitty Epiphone back there that I refuse to get rid of because it's also natural wood. Can't see it now because it's behind the.
I've got an Epiphone in the crackle finish. Do you remember that at all? It's uglier than fuck, but it's.
I don't remember the crackle finish.
Let me find.
Yeah,
a
I wonder
picture.
what happened to the live stream. I don't really care because we're back up and running now. Oh man, that breaks my heart. Look at the upload rate right now. Oh, it switched already. It was at 5150. Oh, did you hear about EVH?
Yeah, that's
He had a long ongoing battle with cancer. Hopefully we're not breaking the news to anybody. Hopefully you found out
No.
about this earlier today.
I mean, that's been.
It's
going
too
around
depressing
for
for
a
me to
while.
even talk about or even acknowledge or deal with right now. People hit me up out of the woodwork because they know how much I love Van Halen. Like, I've got several songs that we're covering for Van Halen in my cover list.
That's a big loss in general for the music community, though. I mean, think about how influential that guy was. Like, that's huge.
Yeah. It's
My mom was an ER nurse and actually took care of Alex Van Halen in the hospital once.
oh no
in
shit.
like 1984 or 85. I don't even know if I was born yet.
That's fucking crazy.
But said the whole band was actually in the ER. And they were all really cool. This is what my guitar looks like.
Oh, they called this crackle?
Yeah.
I remember this. I called it like I remember these. I called it they couldn't decide between alligator and snakeskin, so they made this skin.
Yeah.
That's what
This is like the finish that my guitar is too. I got that when I was like 14. And I remember my buddy and I going into Guitar Center, and I wanted to buy a new guitar because all I had was like the Squire that we all started out on.
Yeah.
And we saw those in the front and we were laughing at them. We're like, those are hideous and terrible. And then I went and played a bunch of things, didn't find anything that I liked. And then we went back.
Look at that shit.
Yeah.
I want to bring up your channel before we forget. because we've been going over 2 hours, so I don't know when you want to wrap it up, but I wanted to make sure that we get back to this because we were going to talk about this. I wanted to show some of these, and I think it's hilarious that I found your channel right away, and now this live broadcast is right there. And I don't know who the fuck is texting me right now. But
It
if
might
you're-
be me. Or is that you?
No, that sounds like my phone. But if you're watching this and you're fucking texting me right now, you know better. I don't know who's doing it right now. I'm not checking my phone during a podcast. You fucking know better. Seriously. Like, if you're texting me, that means you're a friend. If you're texting me because you're trying to tell me that the live stream's down, it temporarily ended. And we're already all over it.
Is it back?
Which one of these should we play?
Oh, man.
Because I shouldn't get flagged for this, even though it's their music, because it's you performing that music. You know what I mean?
Well, would you like the Foo Fighters or Avatar?
You decide. You tell me. What do you?
Well,
because you got the
do
cover
have-
videos and shit. In
I do
here
have
too,
my
right?
cover videos.
Who should we do this one?
Modern Day Cowboy.
Should we do this one?
Fucking love that song, dude.
Me too.
You can do it.
You know. Okay, I got a drum cover for you. A request. Please, just do this for me. I want you to do a cover of Jet City Woman.
Queensryche, man.
Please.
I
will you do
love
it?
Queensryche.
Will you promise me?
I could do that. I could definitely do that. Honestly,
It's
like,
not challenging. I just love that song.
it's a great fucking
and
song.
I've
man.
searched YouTube cover videos of people playing it because I just want to see, like, there's a couple spots in there where I'm curious how he's pulling that
Right.
off. I'm like, I can play it and I can get it to sound virtually identical, but I'm not playing his kit. So us as drummers, we compensate and we cheat and we have to play
we
things
have
a
our
little
own
differently.
way.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I don't have 4 toms.
Right.
So I can't do that. I have 2 toms, but I have 2 kick drums, or 2 kick pedals, so it's like I can simulate this, but I still want to, like, is he leading with his left?
Yeah.
And then so he can end up here.
I watch cover videos when I'm like stuck.
Yeah.
When I'm at a part where I'm like, I have no idea what's happening right here. That's when I'm like studying cover videos or live videos to kind of pick that apart.
Yeah, and I jump on it a little, and it's not me being stuck. I'm like, I know what I'm playing sounds fine, but I want to see how he actually does this.
Yeah.
And I go, oh, he's got 3 rack toms. Got it. Okay, so he
Yep.
doesn't have to worry about this right arm way down here like I'm trying to figure out how do I finish this fill and then get all the way back over to the cymbal. Oh, I get it. He's got 3 giant rack toms that sound like my 1 floor. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm never going to figure that out unless I set my kit up that exact way.
There is that difference.
Yeah.
And that's hard
Carter
to
Beauford is
figure out. Oh.
that's where I discovered it. Is I was trying to learn Carter Beauford drums from Dave Matthews Band. And I couldn't figure out.
It's good, man.
There was just, I'm getting it to sound right for the layman, but I can tell something's wrong.
Right.
What the fuck is going on? And I came back into the drum shop and I was talking about this with you guys because I was still, I was getting a lot better really fast at drums, but I was still clearly the shittiest drummer in the building. Even shittier than the guys who like didn't play drums, but they would come fuck around on the kit.
Right.
Even they were all better than me still. And I was bringing this up, and I remember you guys were like, that's a little advanced for you to be jumping in. I'm like, that's how I learn, though. Like, I'm going straight to the most complicated shit, and I figure out all that little shit on the way. And everyone's like, dude, you really shouldn't be doing this. Like, learn this drum. And I was like, I fucking hate the Beatles. I'm not learning the Beatles. I'm not fucking playing fucking Ringo Starr's goddamn drums. Just stop. Like, and I got into fucking Fool in the Rain with you guys. Remember we were basically had like this secret challenge going around. Who could figure out how to play
Ugh.
Fool in the Rain properly first?
Yeah.
And the only guy who actually got it perfectly was Ingle.
Yeah, I was gonna say Jingle is a great drummer. Man.
I think Muley actually did too, but I think Muley got it first. I eventually had it for about 3 months, and then I quit religiously practicing it, and I still to this day can't play it
it's
properly.
a tasty groove, man.
I guarantee you, to me personally, I shouldn't say guarantee you, to me personally, it is the measure of your actual skill on drums. Like, okay, you can do all this other shit. Play Fool in the Rain correctly.
That's what I don't like about a lot of like I don't know. I love metal, but I don't like bands where it's constant blast beats the whole time,
Right.
and like it's not about speed to me. It's
Here, get
about
that a little closer to you.
it's about taste.
Yep.
That's such a huge thing that I think gets thrown to the wind. Like, I love technicality, but I love technicality with taste.
Yep. Pick your spots.
Pick your spots. There's certain times to do certain things, and
We never played a show together, did we? Not when I was playing drums. Maybe before that in some other band I was in, maybe.
I feel like we played one show together, and I feel like I can't even remember where it was. I feel like it was Club Underground.
Might have been. That would make the most sense because
I feel like we did one show.
that would still make sense. But where I'm going with this is I would do the opposite of what you're saying. So I was in a rock band and I was like, I'm going to figure out a way to sneak a blast beat into this rock
Oh,
music.
I love doing that sort of shit where you
And
just
I
kind of
legit-
throw it in everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
literally
fun.
did it. So I was playing a beat where it's like doon doon cat 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 that kind of thing,
Yeah,
you know what I
oh,
mean?
yeah.
And then I came out of the break with the doon, but it was like for a few of them it was a straight actual just and it was so the way I put it in there, it was literally a 4 count. 1 2 3 4. That's all I got because any longer than that did not work.
Thrown it off. That's
So it's like technicality at the right spot.
I
picked
kind
the
of did
perfect
that
spot for
same sort of thing with a Portentum song recently. Like
Portentum.
Portentum. We just
That's
got.
kind of a cool name.
It is
and it's
a
actually
cool name.
surprisingly not that hard to remember.
It's not.
Portentum. You got to get a really fucking. You got to get a South American dude, like a Brazilian dude.
Portentum.
Yeah, with like a big, like who's the dude from No Country for Old Javier Bardem?
Oh,
You
yeah,
got to get him.
dude.
You got to get him to say Portentum.
It does have
Portentum.
a cool feel to it. We had a song like that though, where I like just kind of to throw it in there once. I'm like, I want to try blasting at this one part just for like same thing, like a little small count, and everybody was like, yeah.
And that's the problem with a lot of metal. And I've talked about this with other drummers, like especially metal drummers don't know how to shuffle at all. They only have their one skill set. And same thing. You get into the country or the blues or the jazz scene, those motherfuckers can't play double kick to save their life. They're like, fucking, what is this? Oh my God. And then you start talking to drummers like Gensmer, and I should have gotten a little bit more into this with him last night. I apologize. I was having so much fun, guys. I've gotten a lot of shit about that podcast last night. Here's the thing is the more fun I have, the worse of an interviewer I am. And the more I try to pay attention and worry about me being a good interviewer, the less fun I have and the less quality the podcast is. I know that doesn't seem like it should make any sense, but it is. Like, but Al Bourne talks about this. It's one of my tenets, and Gensmer clearly subscribes to this, is having a full deck.
Yeah.
So whether you're a metal drummer or not, motherfucker, learn how to play a blues shuffle in fucking 5/6.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why I like to play in all these different
Yep.
styles of bands. Is it can only make me better,
100%.
and I can listen to things differently, and also everything can be applied to other styles of music too. Whether you realize
That's where it
or
helped me the
not,
most.
is those things apply. Like having a solid pocket
Mm-hmm.
helps you be a better drummer all around. If you have that basic understanding, then there's that drive to make those more technical things better because you have that skill set.
Yeah, and there's entire philosophies with the way that those other genres approach songwriting on your instrument. So like when you start understanding how blues is written from a drumming perspective, like using shuffles and different signatures and different, beats, and like the way like shuffles transfer from country to blues to jazz to polka, like there's a technique and a theme that remains the same through all those, and then there's just a different expression and execution to change the genre of music. And then when you start seeing that, you can go, oh, okay, I'm going to try this idea in this metal song that I'm still going to play a metal part, but I'm going to approach it philosophically the way a polka player approaches their drums. Like something in the way you're timing something but you're not going to make it sound like a polka beat because you're going to do it all on the toms and make it sound like the craziest African tribal beat anyone's ever heard.
Yeah.
But you're still actually taking techniques and ideas from a shuffle that you learned in a blues or a polka beat and learning how to like reimagine that and put it into metal. And that's why we get into every musician will eventually come to the conclusion that there are no original ideas in music. Everything is being stolen from something else, including revolutionary, game-changing musicians like an Eddie Van Halen or a Jimi Hendrix or fucking whoever you want to bring up. Even they stole shit from something else. Is what they did, though, is exactly what we just talked about. They took an idea of a hypothetical polka drum beat and then figured out a way to make it metal as fuck and made it the standard in something they did. Because Eddie Van Halen, to wrap up the thing about, you know, him dying or whatever, I don't want to dwell on it too much. He literally, all of Van Halen's music is blues.
Yeah.
Like, same thing with the entire first Guns N' Roses album.
Zeppelin, look at bands like Zeppelin. Which
Blues.
is pure
All
blues.
of it's blues.
Pure blues.
Yep. It's just not expressed like dun 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 dun.
No, it's not like occasionally, yes, but there's different swings and different
Right.
feels on it.
The progressions are all blues
Yep.
pentatonic scales. The solos are all built around that shit.
I think that's like my draw to progressive music is there's a little touch of everything involved in it, and I really like that. I like
That
that
makes sense.
there's that metal aspect, there's a classical aspect to a lot of metal music and a lot of progressive music.
Mhm.
There's blues, there's jazz, there's occasionally touches of country. Like there's a little bit of everything involved in there, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
That's my biggest draw.
Yeah, it's been fucking with me on my songwriting because I used to have a very linear way that my style worked and my skill set worked, and I had refined that into like a writing formula for me. It was like I write a certain way, I perform a certain way. So I would be playing guitar riffs because the drum beats I were into were very upbeat, straightforward. Even if they were slightly progressive with fancy shit in them, it still all flowed that way.
Right.
Well, I've been getting more and more into drumming and obscure rhythms and grooves and shit that I can't. It's very hard for me to be inspired by these new rhythms and then translate that into writing a catchy guitar riff within my current skill set. So I'm realizing I can't go backwards. You can't rewind the clock on stuff like this. So I'm realizing I literally have to change the way I play guitar, my style, in order for me to write new music.
Yeah.
Because I'm bored with the way I was writing music rhythmically from a drumming perspective, and I can't rewind that clock. I can't just turn back the dial. Now I understand why Metallica doesn't just write the fucking Injustice for All album and master. Why don't they just go back to that sound? They can't.
They can't.
They couldn't write another Master of Puppets if you had a gun to their head.
No.
Like, give them all the drugs and booze, have their wives leave them, have fucking their kid commit suicide. It doesn't matter how tortured you try to make James Hetfield. He will never be in the same mindset, skill set, writing style, everything. He'll never write another Master of Puppets
No.
He can't. And I used to be that musician. That's what I'm getting at, is I used to be the kid who's like, dude, I wish I would just like go back to this sound. It's like, dude, that's not how it works. And I would have never known that even as a musician until I hit this specific writing wall. And I was like, oh, got it. It's like, because the grooves and things that are in my head, that's not my style on how I write things. So I'm
Right.
trying to I'm like, got it. Okay. I got to go back into the fucking rabbit hole. I mean, literally is what's probably going to have to happen is I'm going to have to go like rent a cabin. No fucking lie. I'm not joking. And take like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, go to northern Minnesota because that's all I can afford. If I could afford it, I'd go to Jamaica.
It's therapeutic.
But I got to go by myself. Like I'm even gonna have to leave Cape behind and go. Nope. It's gonna be me and a guitar, not even a drum set, and it's gonna be me going up there with no possible distractions. There is no internet. So there is no me getting on Facebook and wasting 6 hours. There is no me, oh, I'm going to wind down at the end of the night and I'm just going to watch, some HBO and go to bed. It's like, no, you wake up and your only entertainment is writing music, and you do that until you're so physically and mentally exhausted you fall asleep. That's the only way I'm writing a new album after this. And it's this drumming thing we're talking about, the shuffling, this like getting off that classic straightforward upbeat. Like, for example, before the podcast started, we did our quick little dry run to make sure everything was working. And you looked at my logo, and as soon as the intro music played for our dry run, you went, I could hear that music before it started just looking at that logo.
Dude, that logo, man, it screams late 80s, early 90s. And like, I don't know. I looked at that and I almost heard like the Saved by the Bell theme song in my head.
I love it so much. I love it. I love it. I love it. And that's what this album sounds like. It's so funny because like I'm working with Dalton from, I don't know if you know Dalton. He was in -3. Do you remember -3? Since you were in the morning, because those bands were definitely around at the same time.
I kind of came later and in the morning.
And you never hung out with us at Area 52.
No, I hadn't. I moved back here in 2009. I like joined in the morning in 2009. So I literally
that makes sense then.
Joined in the morning, and then I think shortly after that, Area 52 closed. I think I might have gone there once.
Yeah, and I probably wasn't hanging out there by then. Dalton was probably already in the fucking Navy. So you probably don't know Dalton or that band at all, but I'm sitting down with him and I play him the demos and he's like, these are actually pretty good, dude. So what do you want from me? Like from a lead guitar perspective. And I'm like, okay, so here's the deal. Here's what the vision is in my head. And I'm going to tell this to you. And as a musician, I want you to tell me if your mind also works like this or if you've worked with people that work like this. So I go, okay, here's what I want to do. I want to do Coheed and Cambria meets Misery Signals.
Oh my God.
Are you familiar with those two bands?
Yeah.
Those are my two favorite bands. Them and Protest the Hero and Metallica and Van Halen.
I like Coheed. It's one of those bands I get burnt out on real
Oh,
fast.
I can't get enough of them. I could listen to...
I think they're great, but I also am like, I don't know, like I listen to enough of them and I'm like, I'm done. This is boring. But then I go back and I'm like, oh, this is fucking cool. And they're good live.
I love that band.
I've seen them live.
They're my favorite current band that is... there's all these qualifiers for it. They're my favorite current band that's putting out regular relevant music.
Right.
That's the only way I can explain it. Metallica's always number one. Bands like Van Halen and fucking Megadeth and, Solo Ozzy. Those bands are what I grew up on, and they have a special spot in my heart. Right. And even bands like Coheed, Misery, and Misery Signals and Protest the Hero will never dethrone those bands. But those bands also aren't currently putting out badass music on a regular basis. So I got to give Coheed the respect they deserve because they're banging out like an album a year at this rate, it seems like. Might be every 2 years, but I swear to God, by the time I'm like familiar and a really big fan of this album, they just dropped another one. And it takes me like a year to catch up because there's so much Coheed, right? Like, and then they're great live and all this shit. So I'm sitting there with Dalton and I tell him that concept. Coheed meets Misery Signals. And then we play the demo again, and he's like, I can actually hear that in your riffs, dude. And I've heard several people say that, like, I can actually hear both bands in your guitar riffs. So he's like, okay, so how do I approach this from my angle, right? And I'm like, okay, so there's going to be certain spots where I want you to just literally just harmonize with what I'm playing. There's other spots where I want you to play a completely different guitar riff than what I'm playing. Like, don't even try to match up with me. You just do your own thing over it. And then there's other spots where it's like bona fide 80s solo, 80s fucking butt rock solo. And he's like, okay. And then he sends me ideas and I direct him like this. I go, in this spot, give me more David Gilmour, Pink Floyd. Go more Pink Floyd in this spot. In this spot over here, give me a little bit more Dave Mustaine in that spot, or in this spot over here, I'll be like, give me a little bit more Slash or a little bit more CC DeVille. So I just kind of like I let him have his creative freedom and write his parts. And I just try to like stylistically nudge him in certain directions until we end up with basically that new intro is one of our songs. It's one of the songs on the album. It's literally the first 5 to 10 seconds of the song. There's another one I should play for you before you get out of here, because that one's kind of 80s and got that spank to it. But boy, woo! This new one, this new mix, I played it on the podcast a couple times. But Dalton added some new guitars, and you think this one's fucking 80s. I'll play you this other one before you get out of here. That shit rips. But before you get out of here,
playing this? Or...
Yeah, that's what I was gonna. That's what I'm trying to
yeah.
get back to, is because we were talking about this kind of shit.
I fell in love with the song when I was filling in for Anthem. Like,
Really?
I didn't realize how much Tesla kicked ass, and then I kind of forgot about the song, and I listened to it, and I was like about to rehearse with them. I'm like, this fucking rips.
I'm actually gonna just share this.
Oh,
like
the
this.
song was just so good.
So this is off your YouTube page. Hold on, I want to pause that for people so they can read that. What did you put up here? I just seen. I didn't realize.
Yeah.
I never realized how kick-ass this song is before I had to learn it for a cover gig. That's awesome.
It's so good, man.
Check this shit out. If you want to get drum lessons from Leigh, I put her description, her info in the bottom there. Yeah, all your plugs are in there. I actually plugged a lot of that stuff too while you were going to the bathroom.
Sweet.
Check the videos out. Let's get her to 100 subs so she can change that URL to her name. Anything else you want to cover before we get out of here? We're not pressed for time by any means, but we have been going pretty damn close to over 2.5 hours.
It's been a while. I can't think of anything else.
Well, no pressure. We'll have you on again. This was a fucking blast. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for having me. I've literally never done anything like this, so it was kind of fun.
Hell yeah. And next time
I
we have you
haven't
on...
seen you in many years.
We live right down the road.
You're literally 3 minutes away from my house.
Well, we'll have to hang out more.
Yes.
I'm sure Kevin would love to see you. We'll say hi to him on the way out.
Right on.
In fact, I think I said earlier he was upstairs studying, which is a fucking lie. He's up there playing video games. He just doesn't like coming down on the podcast, so he won't. But we'll say hey to him on the way out. Guys, if you like this, like, subscribe, share. Word of mouth is the best way to promote this thing. I spend zero money advertising it. It doesn't feel right. I'm not going to promote it. It just doesn't feel right. Like I post it.
Right.
But I mean, I don't know. So I need you guys to help me build this thing. Still trying to get to 100 subs. We had 87 when we started. Might have gotten a couple more since we've been doing this here. These have been going pretty well. And next time you come on, maybe bring Natalie.
Yes.
Maybe we'll.
Yeah, that would be really fun.
And then you're fucking 3 minutes away. We should start hanging out a little bit more.
Yes.
It's not like you got anything to do.
I have so many things to do.
You got a dog. You can bring your dog over.
Yeah,
we have dogs. We can grill.
He's an old boy, and his back legs are not doing
Oh,
so
so you
great.
don't take him many places?
We take him, like, my best friend. I
Want a
used to live right across from her on DuPont. We just moved from over on DuPont and 17th.
Gotcha.
My best friend lives
Which is
right
also
over
not
there.
that far from here.
No, it's a whole mile.
You're literally blocks away now. But yeah, we grill out and shit and fucking have shit in the backyard.
Yeah.
We're going to do a small get together here in a couple weeks for the dog's birthday parties.
Cute.
I'm sure Kevin would love to see you. Because Kevin doesn't know half of our friends, you know what I mean? So it's always nice when there's a familiar face. I'm sure he'd love to see you. But all right, let's get out of here. Let's wrap this up.
Sweet.
All right, thanks, guys. Love you.